exploring the vast worlds of He-Man and She-Ra. Join Sean Scavarna and Matthew Duke as they discuss the history and mystery of Eternia and Etheria, diving deep into all incarnations of Masters of the Universe.
Hey, you know who's back? It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Now that you know, let's go. Get ready for the show. It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Sit back and enjoy the ride. Right now.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 103 of Legends of Grayskull, the fan podcast where we discuss the history, the mystery, the magic, and mythology of He-Man, She-Ra, Eternia, Etheria, Nordor, Primus, New Adventures, Old Adventures, Ladybird, UK, Annuals, Comics, Mini-Comics, anything and everything you can think of with that He-Man, She-Ra, Masters of the Universe, Princess of Power, that Mattel logo down in the corner. I'm Matthew Duke, here again with Sean Scavarna. Sean, how are we doing today?
Can't complain. I'm happy. It's the weekend. And the best part is we have a special guest on this episode.
We do. Joining us right below Sean, right below me, we have the one, the only, Mr. Skele Vader of Toy Frenzy fame.
I'm excited to be here. That song kicks my ass every single time. That is such a good song. Jeremy DeWitt is a genius, man.
He absolutely is. I mean, you see us every time we play that thing, we're bouncing along with it. It gets us pumped to do the intro.
And also the intro, every time I've been listening to this podcast for a very long time now, and every time the Dooch does that intro, I'm like, is he gonna have a stroke this time? You're gonna push it through. But he does it, and it's so good, and proof that it's memorized, seeing it live right now, watching you do it.
Yep.
I was watching your eyes. You got that thing in your head. So
yep.
It has. I think I wrote a preliminary one down like before our first episode, but basically since then it has just been off the cuff, for better or for worse.
Well, if it was me, I would still have to read it even after 100-something episodes.
Yeah, 103 plus, kind of 103 officially.
That's why I said something.
So, and that's something too. Like we gotta appreciate you for a minute, Skele, because I feel like you've been here the whole way. Like, I don't remember a time with us doing this podcast where you weren't dropping a comment or throwing something out there or whatever. Like, this is how we know each other. We threw this podcast out into the void, and Skele rose up and was like, yo, guys.
The timing was perfect. I think, I was in hiding, essentially. And then I discovered you guys and Podcasters of the Universe around the same time. And I felt like, wow, it's like a real, along with the Facebook groups and stuff like that, I felt like suddenly this is like a real thing. I could come out of the cave and embrace this obsession in public. So you guys helped with that.
And we talk about that all the time. I mean, I know I was there. I talk about all the time, like coming out of the geek closet, like, there were just stuff I didn't talk about in my personal life, or I didn't let, I never posted outside of a private group for years, just because I didn't want those two sides bleeding together. But I feel a lot better breaking it down and getting out there. And, you're just taking the world by storm. You've got Toy Frenzy, you've got Weekly Weirdo, you've got Cambridge and Wishon.
Cambridge and Wishon.
Yeah, so you're taking not only did you come up and say, hey guys, you're like, I'm gonna do this too, and you're everywhere now, and everywhere I look I see Skele, which is a good
that's nice to hear. I feel like in the community, even though I'm engaged a lot with stuff happening on my channel, I feel like there are certainly more people out there that are like, hitting the road, strong and being on all the shows. And the truth,
Not really.
The truth is, it's like, you guys know what this is like. You're both parents. It's like, it's exciting to be part of this community. but this is, after all these years of my, social life being out there in the world, it's like I don't have to go anywhere now. It's really great. I got a bunch of friends here, and it's nice. I don't have to leave the family, and I get to nerd out and make stuff in the yard when I'm not at my job, and people actually care, which is like super. This is something I want to say. Why is it, Matt, that you and I just said the same thing, which is we were afraid to come out of the geek closet? Like, what kind of world do we live in where we're terrified of sharing this exciting?
Well, because that's how it was growing up.
Yeah,
like these kids nowadays. I tell my wife all the time. I told Shawn before, like my kids, this new generation, they don't understand.
Yeah,
like they might have kids that make fun of them or whatever, but like middle school, high school, you want to talk about reading comics and collecting action figures and watching cartoons still? Like,
if you and I were into like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh in the 80s, we would have been tripped walking down the sidewalk.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's
thrown at us. It's a different world. That's true.
It's the survival. I mean, we learned in school that like you segmented this.
Yeah.
I mean, my close friends were always like you guys, like that. My core group of friends, I could talk about this stuff.
Yes,
we nerded out with
for sure.
But it's just that survival instinct, and then you're going into the workforce, which is kind of evening up now. But you're entering the workforce, and most of those guys, your bosses and stuff, they're your parents' generation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're, that's even worse. My dad still doesn't understand this why I collect or you know what I mean, like. They're not. It's not unsupportive of it, but it's just they don't get it. Yeah. So then you go into your workforce and you're hitting all these guys like that and everything else, and it's that survival instinct.
Yeah.
Like it's easier to just have your two personas.
Yeah, that's true.
Now I don't care anymore. Now I'm getting to the age where I'm just like, okay, like make fun of me. Like that's like that's the worst thing in the world,
That we're getting closer to as we get older, we just don't care, and that's the way it should be. Like, who's going to judge me now?
Right. No. And I am appreciative that I'm seeing it with my kids and everything. Like it's a whole different world. There's a lot more acceptance all around, and people can just be who they are. So that's pretty cool. Like. And I get that like bullying and stuff like that still exists, and
in different ways. Yeah.
But I mean, it's not like what we had to go through.
Yeah, it's different. It was this, it's bullying now is terrifying, because it's so easy to do without being present. It's easy to do on social media. But people bully mostly now. At least my wife teaches elementary school, so it's my perception that people bully now mainly just the way people look and personality traits and lifestyle choices, and those are the things that really. That's like, I don't know how to say it, but I guess it's like core bullying. What people bullied me for was like interests and dressing weird, and that's like frosting on the cake bullying. That's like it's like decorative bullying. It's like likes comic books, so I'm gonna call him a nerd, but do it in a mean way, and but so it's almost a more terrifying world when it comes to bullying now, because they can do it.
It's definitely changed. It's more emotional now. It's more psychological. You get more of that kind of stuff. Whereas, no, you cross the wrong kid in my school, and you go the wrong way home from school, and you were literally getting your ass kicked. That's Yep. It was a lot more physical back then.
Physical bullying versus physical and verbal. Of course, we didn't have social media, so it's like different.
I thank God for that. So
yeah, me too, man. That
as much as I love it, I would have not handled it well at a younger age.
Yeah.
So now's the right time, though.
That's right.
Sean, you're awfully quiet over there. How you doing?
Sean's thinking right now. This got heavy real fast.
No, like
this is our second episode in a row that we got heavy all of a sudden out of nowhere.
Like it was funny. Like growing up, Jesse and I were kind of glued at the hip for like a lot of our elementary and high and middle school years. High school, he ended up going to the competitor high school from what I went to, because that's where his family had graduated, all of his brothers and his sister. So he's like, I want to go there instead. So it was like middle school. He and I were targets for bullies a lot. And I was usually the one, like if I saw him with a comic book, be like, hide it. You don't give them any more ammunition today, or whatever. And like I had really curly, thick, dark hair, and I had dandruff. So there was people that were giving me crap just based on physicalness. And then there were people that knew, oh, Sean and Jesse would play Ninja Turtles at recess in 4th and 5th grade. So they're going to be the dorks and they're going to be this. And I don't know. I kind of got my revenge though, like in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I would come into school and I'd have this like superhero artwork I would do. And people would be like, how did you do that? And I'm like, because I like art. Now I read comics and I'm using my comics to help me learn how to draw. And suddenly it wasn't all that nerdy anymore. Suddenly people are like, oh, so that, it fosters talent if you do it the right way and you use it to influence yourself and stuff. Yep. But yeah, like middle school for me was my hell years.
I'll agree with that. I was just thinking that actually middle school was the worst.
Sixth and 7th grade for me were, I'd say probably more 6th than anything. 6th on the bus was my absolute hell. Because there were people behind me that loved to like kick the seat, put stuff in my hair, all that kind of crap. And 7th grade, 8th grade, I grew out of it because the people that were giving me crap went to high school and probably got their asses kicked as freshmen. And that's I heard about that. The guy that was bullying me, and he was the one that was like the mastermind behind it. So the kid, he was sitting with me in the bus seat, and he'd have the kids behind us be the ones doing stuff to me behind my back. In 7th grade, he went to high school as a freshman, and somebody at one point said, "Hey, by the way, I heard he got his ass kicked by a group of seniors last week." And I remember just sitting there going, "Really? Okay." So it was that whole karma, and I tried my best not to give too many people crap because I knew I didn't like how it felt. So
you said it when you said it, you hit the nail on the head when you said you started to like bring your notebooks to school and people noticing that, that doesn't, that starts to happen, in high school. We begin to like become ourselves, and it's strange. Middle school is always the hardest. Yes. In high school, I felt more confident to be like, this is the art that I make. This is the stuff that I do. These are my interests. And, just like I started getting into music that made me feel empowered. And I'd just be like, F you if you don't like it. And then I'd be like, look at this thing that I made. And not in that shitty way, but I felt confident that the things that I could make and put out into the world might, and they did, help me garner some respect. And but yeah, you guys said it, the middle school years were the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best project that we had to do when I was in middle school, we had Latin, and if I remember right, it was 7th grade. We have Latin, and obviously a dead language, but they wanted us to start that as like our beginning of foreign languages. So you see the roots of all these other languages, and
cool. I mean,
from there it went into French, Spanish, German, and
now
English
Sean
and everything else.
5 languages.
So I am so lucky I can even speak English. I'm amazed half the time I'm even on shows for the reason of my linguistic skills. But the teacher at the end of the year had us do this project where we were to draw all of the Greek gods. And I remember when she gave us the project, I just kind of sat there with a smile from ear to ear going, this is gonna be good. So then I ended up, I went home and I found some reference material from like comic books. So I had like, here's this really cool Aquaman, like he's swimming in the ocean. Well, that was my Neptune. Here's Zeus, and I drew him as like one of the X-Men, like a pose from the X-Men books, but it was Zeus and all this stuff. And like I brought it in, and the teacher was like A+, and every kid there goes, holy shit. And I'm like, yeah. And one of the guys actually, he couldn't get one of his done. He goes, hey, can you draw me this guy at least? And it's like, all of a sudden you're like, I'm in demand because I can do this and you can't. Suck it. You have that feeling after a little bit. It's like I'm a dork, but I can help you now. Look at that. And that was a really awesome assignment because everybody just got overwhelmed with that the artistic stuff. So
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I love that.
I have no artistic ability, as all of you know, but I had a kind of similar moment in high school where in high school I got big into drama, so and behind the scene acting and behind the scenes and everything.
Cool.
But so one of our big assignments for 10th grade or 11th grade English was recite a monologue from Julius Caesar. And the teacher kept saying, like, hey, this is a big assignment, you need to, he's like, we had like a month to prepare for it. He's like, don't wait till the night before, don't put it off, like start practicing now. So I took that as a challenge, and I literally waited until the night before to even look at it. And sure. And so then I looked at the night before, read over it, blah, blah, blah. I think I looked at it in the morning again, and then went to class that day. He was looking for volunteers to go first. I raised my hand. I went first, knocked it out right there. And I did. I let him know after. He was a really cool English teacher. We got along. I let him know after class, hey, just so you know, I started reading that last night. So I was like, okay, you're the exception to the rule. All right.
Yeah. I got one quick story about something similar, actually. High school, I was in junior year. We were reading To Kill a Mockingbird. Mm-hmm. And I also that year had a theater arts class. So it was making me feel more comfortable to get in front of people. And it was easier if I could do something where I'm not myself being in front of people, because then I can blame it on the character I am or whatever. And the teacher that day, like they basically do, okay, you need to read this part, whatever, when we were reading these sections. And she let me be Atticus Finch, and ended up being the scene where it's in the courtroom. Mm-hmm. and he's there. What was his name? I can't remember his name. The man that he's
the one on trial.
The one on trial.
Either. Yeah.
It wasn't Boo Radley, because Boo Radley was the guy that lived in Radley.
Yeah. No, he was the albino.
I don't remember the name of that character either.
But it's the big scene where he's up there and he's trying to defend his client and everything. And when it got to when we were doing this part, I actually raised my hand and I'm like, do you mind if I stand up to do this part? Because I'm taking a theater arts class and I'm a little more comfortable. Is that okay? She goes, you can do it however you want. And then it ended up being my buddy, who also was in theater arts, and a friend of mine, his name was Andrew. He also was comfortable with that. So he was the lawyer for the prosecution or whatever. So then he goes, can I get in there with Shawn too? And so like I ended up doing the whole thing where I'm walking in front of the class and I'm acting like I have it. I'm saying it as best of a Gregory Peck voice as I can do, and really getting into this role. And there's parts where it says, and then the prosecutor objected, and Andrew just jumps out of his seat. I object. And the teacher's like, Andrew, if it isn't written in it that he said that, it's saying narratively he said it. This dialogue. You can't start ad-libbing this stuff. Yeah. This is a legit, like, this is an all-American, American perfect novel. We're not adding dialogue to this, but I did this whole thing, and he and I did our whole thing like we were in a courtroom, And what killed me was at the end of the class when we were leaving, there were like at least 4 or 5 kids that came up and they go, "Hey, are you going to do that again tomorrow?" And I'm like, "I don't know. If the teacher says we're allowed to, I'd be happy to." And they're like, "That was the first time I paid attention in class all year." And I'm like, "Okay." It was really that was a huge ego booster for me, because I thought it was just going to end up being stupid, and it was like, "Oh no, that it actually made people pay attention." How crazy is that? But I loved it when he's like, "I object," and the teacher's like, "Overruled."
and for those screaming at their podcast at home, Tom Robinson was the defendant.
Tom Robinson.
There we go, Tom Robinson.
Thank you.
I can't leave that kind of stuff dangling.
Thank you for doing that.
It is the way.
So, Skele, let's dive into you a little bit here. So let's jump back. We got a little bit of high school, middle school there. Let's jump back. What was your first memory of Masters of the Universe? You know, how did you get into the line?
There's an integral moment where I walked into Toys R Us and saw a wall of Masters of the Universe figures, and saw Trapjaw, and I had an allowance, and I didn't see any of the other characters. I remember that moment so distinctly. I mean, if you've ever been to a Toys R Us, you know what a Toys R Us smells like. It has a very particular
Yeah.
And so I associate, there's a lot of very strong memories about that moment. That's not the first time I ran into Masters, because you know, I saw the toys at my friends' houses, because and I really wanted Skeletor and Beastman, and I wanted He-Man too, just because, right?
Right, yeah.
I was really drawn to Skeletor and Beastman, but I didn't have the opportunity or even know what it was called, what these were called, until I walked into the store and I saw that Trapjaw. Then I started to see the Filmation cartoon at babysitters' houses, and it just like blossomed from there. I'm talking about it as if it was over a span of time. I'm pretty confident it was probably just like within a few months, or within a month or something like that.
It felt like that back then.
Oh,
it felt so long. Like
it was epic, and every time you know, every moment with that toy line or with other toy lines that I've been interested in, always felt like I was waiting, like I was anticipating and waiting and anticipating and waiting, and then getting to play with them, and those hours of play felt like days. And that's not. I guess I'm going off on a tangent, but that integral moment was walking into that Toys R Us, seeing that Trapjaw, and thinking that trumped all the other figures, even though I was impressed by Skeletor and Beastman.
Now, what? Not trying to date you or anything, but like, what kind of year are we thinking here? If you can even recall, I know it's kind of murky back.
I've said 83 in the past, and I'm fairly confident it's 83 or late 82.
Makes sense. I mean, Filmation's out around that time, so it's got to be around 83.
I'm pretty confident it was early 83. And then you know, I was fortunate enough that I was able to get some of the figures, like at birthdays and things like that. But so I believe, you know, I could probably say 82, but that might make me cooler than I really am. I think it was 83. It was 83, and you know, I was really distracted by you know, monsters, and you know, the Universal monsters, and King Kong especially, and Superman was really cool to me, and Star Wars was bitchin'. I mean, I Star Wars. I was like, I already had some of those toys, and the Hulk was cool. I was already interested in all these things, but it was that Trapjaw was my MOTU moment.
Nice.
It's funny because Trapjaw still is one of my favorites, but it's all about Beastman and Skeletor. It's like they're ingrained in my, like, those were the figures I couldn't find, and so therefore I became more like more involved with appreciating them from a distance, I guess. And so they're really kind of my two favorites.
And that's another thing, going back to when we were kids, like everything felt like it took longer because a lot of it really did. Like you had to wait. You had to wait for mom to take you to the store.
Yes.
You were fancy over there with your Toys R Us. Like when I was growing up, our nearest Toys R Us was like an hour and a half away.
Well, let me follow that up with the nearest Toys R Us to where I lived was 45 minutes away.
Okay.
But I was fortunate that this is going to sound really sick. I was fortunate that my parents were divorced because my dad lived in the city. My mom lived in the mountains. I lived with my mom in the mountains primarily. Yeah. And so the big city was always far away, but I would go visit my dad every other weekend. And that's when I would get to it was like going to another world.
It was. Well, that's how it was for me because I got to go to Toys R Us once a year after my birthday. On my birthday, I would get my birthday money, and then like a week or so later, my mom would take me to go shopping down this city and go to Toys R Us, and I could spend my birthday money.
That's so cool. That really creates a really
it's
a memory.
Yeah, it's this milestone, but growing up, but it's like. But like that's how it was. My kids nowadays will hop on their freaking the iPad and look on Amazon like, oh, here's this thing, like, and it's
never remember the smell of Amazon.
That's true.
They might remember. They might attach those memories to like the smell of your living room or your previous house living room or something like that, right? They'll attach those memories, right? And that's true. So, but yeah, it's not the. I guess it is. It's not the same for sure.
It's different nowadays. I mean, I brought up last episode, me and Shawn, like that CGI He-Man from the Masterverse line. If it wasn't for the internet, I would just not have that figure. Yeah, I never found it anywhere. Yeah. Like, and that doesn't happen anymore. You know, you're saying you're attracted to Skeletor and Beastman because when you say you couldn't find them, it's like no. Once we passed a certain point, you just didn't find them.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't a round two. There wasn't, somewhere else to go. You had your stores and you went to them, and whatever was there was there.
I had a friend. I'm gonna name him Aaron.
Okay.
He had all of them. Like he had everything that had come out before. And Aaron, he had such a cool collection. I mean, he had like superpowers. He had Star Wars. He had Masters of the Universe. He was a great kid, and we were friends. And I was lucky. I'd go over to his house. He lived by the school I went to, so I'd go over there and play with his toys, and I would just zone in on that Beastman and that Skeletor, and it was my chance. It was my chance to play with those characters.
I love it. So then you grew up, went to middle school, high school. We covered that. Did you stick around with Masters, or was it like you fell off completely and then you came back, or?
That's a good. So it's funny because they were always in the back of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Masters of the Universe was always in the back of my mind. I was more interested in playing in punk bands and interested in girls and stuff, and
as you do
in high school, and trying to figure out who I was.
Yep.
But by the time I was old enough to start like throwing parties, guess what I was doing? I was trying to like find VHS copies of Masters of the Universe cartoons to put them on and like be like, dudes, do you remember this? And then I would, this was back before, this is, way before 2000X. So all you could do was find, taped copies or something from a thrift store.
Yep.
And so I would, one of the things an important moment, I guess, was when I suddenly looked outside of my teenage shell and realized that my mom had given away all my toys. And I was like, and so because it was one of those moments that I think it was like late teens. I was like, went back home and I was like, and I was starting to think about masters again. And I was like, hey, whatever happened to that stuff? And she's like, oh, I gave it to my students. And to this day, when I go to any like antique stores or toy store, secondhand toy stores in the town near where those students lived, I always think that thing that I bought was that thing my thing,
Right.
But it was always in the periphery. I was always interested in it. It wasn't until until the early 2000s when the commemorative figures started to show up on the shelves. Late 90s, early 2000s, Star Wars is coming back into my world, and I'm starting to go to toy stores. I have my license, the commemorative toys are showing up at Toys R Us, and then 2000, Mike Young Productions 2000X series comes out, and I'm like, holy shit, this is like, it's like, it's big. Like my connection to this is bigger than I thought it was. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, that's how.
No, it completely does. It's kind of funny to think about it. We talked. You hit it earlier. Everything seems to take longer.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really think about it, He-Man was only gone for about 10 years.
Yeah.
If you count up the New Adventures, like He-Man was gone for 10 years from 1990 to 2000 when they started releasing the commemorative and then rolling into Mike Young.
Yeah.
And it's now been 20 years since Mike Young premiered.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, and New Adventures, like I saw those on the shelves and I was like, like that is not. I'm way too cool for that. It's not my He-Man. It's not my Skeletor. These are weird. What is this? What happened to this? It's and then now as an adult, I'm like, holy shit, those villains are amazing. Those are really cool, weird dudes. But the cartoon, I'm sorry to say, I still can't enjoy the cartoon. I have tried many times.
I've got to make up my must-watch list still.
Yeah,
we've been talking about that a lot lately. It's come up from a lot of different people we've talked to, and I've got to pin it down because there's a good core nugget of episodes in there.
Yeah,
and there's some cool stuff that they do continuity-wise and everything, but there is Drek in there as well.
I gotta just dedicate a weekend and just make it a New Adventures weekend and just plow through all those episodes.
Yeah,
maybe when I'm retired.
And it's available on Peacock. I think Peacock's got New Adventures.
Yeah, I grab them off of YouTube every once in a while. Episode here, episode there. I find them on there.
Yeah, YouTube's there too. On YouTube.
Yeah.
And actually, since we're talking about it, the Mike Young production series is now available to stream on Amazon Prime.
Ooh,
that news came out.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep. From what I haven't gone and looked myself, but from what I'm hearing, both seasons are on there. So the whole 39 episodes.
And I know you guys love Mike Young Productions show, but it's interesting. My whole, like the early 2000s, I can remember the feeling of watching those episodes and going through this like really like huge transition in my life. I moved from California to New York. Like I was like, I'm going to do this and live out there. And I was working at this hotel and I'd go in and I'd get there at 5 a.m. to get things set up at this job. And I would turn the TV on there in the gym and I could watch Mike Young Productions.
Yep.
He-Man, and I have these really important memories attached to that series too. Developmental, like it was there during a very developmental time for me.
I completely agree. It's great. I mean that was literally when I was graduating high school.
Yeah.
Was when Mike Young was coming out. So it's kind of the same thing. You get I mean, I remember He-Man from birth, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting how it kind of came back around and has followed us through to this day. Like, yeah, man, I think that's a big cornerstone of everything we do. Obviously on Legends of Grayskull, but I think even with you and Toy Frenzy and Weekly Weirdo, and you know, it's strong there. I mean,
I didn't make my first build wasn't you know, Death Star.
right.
Well, I think about that. Like my first build was Grayskull. It's because Grayskull is it. Like for some reason, like when I think about, you know, our show is called Toy Frenzy, with the understanding that we could talk about other toys, but what do we always talk about, Shawn? You know, it's like it's always goes back to Masters.
Yeah, like even when we veer from it, we always manage to come back within the same episode half the time. Yeah.
That's so true. Yeah, every episode is a variation of itself, essentially, kind of like what you guys do here. But that's what it's like. What we love. That's
Yeah.
what we love.
And luckily, you just got lucky, and your mom named you after what would be two of your favorite properties. So
Yes.
that was
My mom. She just had this inkling.
she had this inkling. So yeah, that worked out very fortuitously.
That's making me laugh. Your mom doing that. I'll name him Skele. And then you just hear
Vader.
from the blanket.
Emerging. Yeah, that's
It's the Family Guy episode where Peter's in I think it's a nursing home, and he's trying to come up with a fake name. And so he sees a P, and then a T. Someone's crying, so he's like P tear, and then a griffin flies by, and he's like Peter Griffin. Damn it!
I love that so much.
Oh, back when it was good. So I'm gonna throw this out here at you guys right quick here. Obviously, coming up Toy Frenzy that you're in now and everything else, like you are a big modern Masters collector, but much more so than Shawn and I, even because I mean I love my Masterverse. I've got some Origins. Shawn, I think, is pretty much out on both lines, but I know you're like in on it all.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you know, and part of that is that I missed the boat on classics. I got a few classics when I could get a good deal.
yeah,
I totally missed the boat on that. I was like, you know, my life was like, you know, I was working job to job, and I just couldn't commit. I knew it was happening, but I couldn't commit, and I was not in a place where I could.
it was a lot back then.
It was a lot. Now,
When it started, I mean, the market caught up to them eventually, but man, when it started, I remember $25 plus shipping for one figure, and there's a figure every month. You want me to drop $25 a month to get a figure each month? You're out of your minds. Like,
yeah.
it seems so insane in 2008 to be like 20 here.
Well, I love classics from a distance. I have some of the Club Grayskull Filmation figures, and I love them. You know, I like Origins because it hits me, and then it hits that nostalgia button for me.
Sure.
I like Masterverse because I feel I'm able to get. I don't like all Masterverse, by the way, because I feel like I can't get on board with some of the figures that have come out, but the new Eternia ones are just phenomenal. They've just gotten spectacular. They didn't start out so great, but they're spectacular. But really, it comes down to when I got back into collecting toys, when I had a real job, started getting back into collecting toys. It was all about the vintage line. So my focus was getting vintage figures. Because I could get them at an affordable price, but also because I wanted to have that feeling again. My wife bought me Moss Man in classics and Clawful in classics, and that made me so happy.
Nice.
You know. But I was really spending my toy money on getting the vintage stuff. But so Origins and Masterverse, I think Origins is great because it maintains the wonkiness of the vintage ones. So that's something that always attracted me to the vintage figures, was that they were not perfect. They were looking at it as an 80s kid, looking at his figures, they were weird, and they were awkward looking, and they couldn't stand up most of the time, and and they were top heavy, and the paint applications were off often, and or sometimes different, and so Origins, I feel like that the chance for imperfection makes me happy about Origins. It brings me back to that feeling I would have with the vintage figures. But nothing tops the vintage line, in my opinion. They're looking back on them, even with the wonkiness and the imperfections, they're artworks. They're spectacular. And I know that some people feel that way. I feel that way from a distance about classics, and I know you guys feel that way about classics. And you're very lucky dudes to have a lot of them there.
Yeah.
Matt just looked. For those of you just listening to this as a podcast,
I did.
lovingly looked to his left.
Well, let me throw it out to you guys here. So let's start with, we can throw them both out. So Origins and Masterverse. I want a character for each one that you cannot believe has not been made yet. One for Origins, one for Masterverse. Who wants to run it off first?
Well, Sean, are you ready for this, or should I jump in?
Go, Skele. You got it.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Guess first.
Too bad Origins. There's not a too bad in Origins yet. It drives me crazy, and that's so weird. And it's so weird that I know I shouldn't be. I'm adding another one, but it's so weird that it's taken them this long to throw out a Moss Man. But yeah, too bad for sure with Origins. And so I'll pause there, and I'll come back with my Masterverse. Sean, how about you?
I was gonna go with Modulok for the fact that the pop and swap aspect of that line. Why is this taking them that long to get to him? I mean, they already started with Horde members, if I remember right.
They got it's like almost easy. I think they have all the vintage toys except for Modulok. If I remember right.
So and it's like, as a pop and swap and all that, it just easy go to.
Yeah. You'll probably say it's a little bit left field, but it's my backup because Too Bad was my original. But Catra.
Oh.
Like, they released She-Ra as Wave 2.
Yeah.
Fans have been clamoring for a vintage toy homage Catra since Classics.
Yeah.
How have you not released a Catra yet?
Yeah, they've done it in Masterverse. How come there's not a Catra in same thing with Too Bad, right? They did that in Masterverse, but why isn't Too Bad in same thing with Catra?
Exactly. All right, Masterverse, what you got, Skele?
Masterverse, I don't know why they haven't jumped into full Horde yet. So Mantana and Leech, they've already been featured on box art. So I'm surprised they haven't released Mantana. I'm just going to say Mantana. I'd like to see Leech too, but they've already showed it. Same thing with Too Bad with Origins. We've already seen it a lot in the box art. We've seen Leech and Mantana on box art for the Masterverse, so I'm surprised they haven't done that.
And they love releasing those deluxe figures, the oversized figures in Masterverse. Like, there's one every wave.
Oh, imagine I keep thinking about the possibilities for Leech or Mantana as deluxe figures, because I could see Leech being a hulking swamp thing, version of Leech. Like, I've always wanted to see him be huge and menacing.
If you release him under the new Eternia banner for Masterverse, then you can dig into some of that cross-sell art where he's even more weird in the big fingers. He's got the detachable mind control bat. That was the early gimmick that they scrapped.
Cool.
That'd be awesome.
Yep.
Sean, your Masterverse?
I'm gonna go with, and this is just a fan favorite for me. It's Wondar. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's been everywhere else. Like
he's been in Origins, he's been in Classics, and he was in the original line, but no Masterverse. And the part that gets me is when Revelation came out, they did do King He-Man,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't do Vicor, they didn't do Wondar, but King He-Man's there. So
King
I
Grayskull.
kind of would think that would be a easy win right there. Just make all three of them.
They did King Grayskull, not King He-Man.
Would
King
you
Grayskull.
would you
Sorry.
would you rather have a Revelation Wondar or like a New Eternia Wondar, or just a Wondar that? Okay, so I'm going to jump to this. I'm taking a long time to get there. The Faker head for the New Eternia Faker is a phenomenal sculpt.
Yes.
Yep.
See Wondar with that head sculpt. So would you rather have a Revelation Wondar or like a New Eternia Wondar?
At this point, probably New Eternia, because the Revelation version was a bulky guy on the cartoon, and I kind of dug that he had a more stocky frame compared to the other ones. So since you're using the same buck all the time, a New Eternia one makes more sense to me. But that I agree completely. That Faker sculpt that they came out with, it's like they need to give a normal He-Man one, Wondar one, and everything else out to anybody who bought them originally, so that they finally have a good version for their figure.
They should just send ahead, like mail everybody.
Yeah.
With the appropriate paint applications. That is phenomenal.
Yeah, we've got to be seeing that sooner rather than later on some form of He-Man. Like,
I like the 40th anniversary He-Man and Skeletor that they came out with.
Yeah.
But the head sculpt on He-Man is just like, it's super weird. And He-Man's always had a weird face. In fact, I love the vintage He-Man face. The closest thing I feel like we've gotten to that is the Origins He-Man, which is crazy. But like having that sort of scrunched up, not handsome at all face.
no, he's not.
He's handsome He-Man's always. I'm sorry, guys. Handsome He-Man has always bugged me. Even in the Mike Young productions, handsome He-Man. Even in the Filmation cartoon, handsome He-Man, like it doesn't make sense. See, this guy's brutal. He's got to look like he's been through the ringer. So that's just my opinion. Maybe that's why I've never been a huge He-Man fan. Is that maybe I've never felt like like he's too pretty. Like maybe I've just felt like he's too like good looking. For being who he is, for being the hero he is. I have the same problem with Superman, by the way. So that's all that.
Whenever I think the correct answer is always New Eternia at this point, because they always seem to give you something. You can still create a classic-esque look if you want to, but like especially a character like Wondar, who's been released how many times as just a repaint. Like I'd like to see what they could do with him to give him a little bit more diversity. And I don't know what that answer is,
for sure.
But there's got to be something. If they do New Eternia, I have faith in them at this point. They will do something to set him apart, like they did that Faker, with his weapons and everything. Like it's so easy to throw a Faker out there, complete repaint, take the weapons, repaint them, but they're like, no, let's, he is a robotic duplicate, so let's give him these robotic duplicate weapons as well.
I love that.
Like stuff like that. That's like, you didn't have to do that, but it sets this guy apart from all the other versions.
For sure.
And for that reason, I want my Masterverse figure that I can't believe they haven't given me yet is Snout Spout. I want to see a New Eternia Snout Spout.
I knew it.
Superposable, and I'd love to see what they can do. I think if I'm doing the Snout Spout, you get as close to that Four Horsemen Staction design as you can. Really go with the robotics on it, because we've got the classics, which emulates the vintage perfectly. We've got the Origins, which, you know, it's got that filmation style head and it has an action feature. Lean into the one thing we never got, and I have the Staction over there, but I never got my fully posable one. So give me the big elephant guy in the armor, robotic, big ass tanks.
Yep.
Give me that new Eternia snout spout. How the
He's
hell
gonna
have we not done this yet?
He's got to be deluxe, and he's got to be bulky. He's got to have weight to him, like the classics Ram Man or the classics Tuscador. Like he's got to have.
Even the Masterverse too bad. Like if he's that size, you know, that'll
for sure.
That'll do it for me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'd love a snout spout in New Eternia Masterverse. That would be amazing.
You listen to me, tell him do it. All right. Now, real quick here, let's go through again. But I want your deep cut want, your Koldar. You know, who's that random guy, that villager 2 in the background of the one scene for Origins and Masterverse.
For Origins and Masterverse, so I have to come up with 2. All right, the clown. What's the clown's name?
Crackers. Thank you. Wow, my God, I don't know why I was
Crackers. Whoa, you didn't get that, Matt? That's crazy.
Took me a second. I got there.
You did it.
I got the assist.
I want to see Crackers in Origins.
Okay.
I think that would be hilarious. Just a con exclusive, nothing that, because they're not going to sell a lot of them, but that would be really, really funny.
Yeah. Mattel Creations at best, like 24 hours made to order.
Yeah, exactly. And because there's only there are fans of Filmation, and then there are fans of Filmation.
Yep.
And that character, I picked him because I personally dislike him greatly. That's part of the joy of that, right?
Sure. Yeah.
It's like such a weird, and he's kind of sleazy with his deep cut shirt and stuff, and he's a weird one. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Right, that's my Origins pick. Yeah.
All right, Sean. Who's your deep cut Origins?
For Origins, Optic.
Okay.
I grew to love that figure through classics, and I'm still not 100% on the villains of New Adventures of He-Man, because I know both of you say they're the best part, but for me it's like they go a little too far into the weird. Then I'm willing to go with where my imagination goes, I guess. But Optic was one where they did them in classics, and I'm like, I dig this for some reason. And then, like, in my own headcanon, I'm like, he's my sniper because he's got the big eye. And give him a little rifle, and he sits on the top of Snake Mountain waiting for people to come by and starts taking pot shots at him.
Yeah,
I just love it. I don't know why. Just the big eye as your head just gets me for some reason.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I don't think, besides the 4-pack of He-Man, I don't think they've done any New Adventures in Origins, have they? Correct me if I'm wrong, Skele.
No, they haven't. That's the only one.
Yeah, so I'd actually, now that you mentioned, I'm actually kind of curious to see, because I mean, classics made me love a lot of the characters more than they already did. So it'd be kind of cool to take them back to the Origins and get them in that vintage toy proportions. And
it would be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be fun. And of course, for me, I got to go with my boy Malaktha. Like,
for sure.
It's still a travesty. He was never released in classics. And this is again same with like con exclusive Mattel Creations window. Like, how do you release Koldar and not release Malaktha at this point? So, all right, Masterverse.
So there's 2. Sean already said a New Adventures one. I was going to say Butthead for New Adventures.
Okay.
Phenomenal in Masterverse, but really my answer for Masterverse is Batros.
Okay.
I don't want to see a repeat of the classics Batros. One of my favorite figures.
Right.
But I want to see a new Eternia version of Batros. What would they do? How could they push that figure into a little bit more interesting territory. I love that episode where Batros appears stealing the books and stuff. Like, that's amazing. I've always liked that character.
I love it. I love it. That's a great pick. I'd love to see what they did with him.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go with a Filmation character, and it's not Chakotay. I would like to see them do the Fire People.
Yes.
I really like that was a missed opportunity in Classic, in my opinion. They were already having how many translucent figures, and to me it would have been an easy one. Especially, I mean, granted, the end of the line was the Club Grayskull line, unfortunately, and maybe they could have gone that route at some point.
Con exclusive King Helios with the dog and the bird from the episode.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And even me being who I am about Filmation, if they would say that's something, I feel like I gotta get that, because they were such a striking visual on that episode that even as a kid I would have loved those.
I love it. I love it.
That makes me wish that there was like rock people too.
Absolutely, I was thinking that too.
They were my runner up for the Masters. I can't believe they haven't made it yet. So because I still think, like, anyone who got to a vintage toy to me is not a deep cut. Like even Rotar and Twistoid, like they had vintage toys, so they're not deep cut anymore. That's just how my mind works. And Shawn probably thinks he was snaking me with the Fire People, but actually I did not go there. I did go Filmation though. Like the other, it's because again I feel this is a Classics miss, and I really want her, and that is Hunga the Harpy from She-Ra. So and you know, again, take her into New Eternia, give her some add-on armor and stuff, so you can take it off. You can have the classic look, or you can like weaponize her up. Absolutely, big ass wings, articulated. Like, let's go.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. All right, Mattel, you're listening, right?
Mattel, they listen to every episode. We have to send an advance copy. And so they have to sign off on everything. So we might have to re-record this if they don't approve of our decisions.
That's all right. I will be available.
Yeah, because you know we're paid for by Mattel and Kevin Smith. So
yes,
we have actually been accused of that.
Dollar bills, y'all.
What happened?
Are you serious? Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've been accused of being on the payroll.
Wow. If only.
Yeah. I know, that's what we said. That's literally what we said.
We can get paid for podcasts. We're made.
I'll wear the Mattel hat every episode.
100%.
Do the Wayne's World, you know.
Absolutely.
Try 2 of these.
Oh man.
Good times.
I want to say, I don't know if I said this at the beginning. I meant to say it at the beginning, but I just got real excited as we jumped into our conversation about bullying.
Yeah. We always get excited by bullying.
That
is never what somebody would say.
The views of Skele Vader do not represent the views of Legends of Grayskull podcast, Mattel, or its subsidiaries.
I do want to say thanks for having me on here, guys, because this is. I'm a huge fan, as you know, of what you do on this show, and I'm just I feel really lucky to have been asked, even though I kind of bullied you into having me on.
No,
but
you've always been on the list. We've still got that episode with you and Chris that we need to get off the ground. It just kind of we haven't forgotten about it. We got really close up to 100 there.
That's okay.
It just kind of overtook everything, so we're getting back to business here.
Of course.
I want to ask you about that. So we did get sidetracked because that's where I was going with the conversation too. So, do you recall what was your first Legends of Grayskull episode 1? Do you remember, or
I don't actually? I was thinking about that today. I was like, what was the first one? This is what I did. I came on. Maybe it was. I don't know what episode it was. What I did was I started with one episode, and I don't remember which episode it was. And then I backtracked and started from 1 and worked my way through, or started from early. I don't know if it was 1, maybe. I think it must have been 1. And then I worked my way up through. So I don't remember which one it was I started on. That's an excellent question, though.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm going to do eventually when I have a lot of time is go back and listen to everything from the beginning, figure out which one that was. Because it would probably, I was listening to Roast Google Dinner.
Yeah.
And I was like, this can't be it. This is how it happened. This is what I can tell you. This can't be it. So I did a search, and
Right.
that's how I found you guys.
Nice.
And yeah, how many years has it been now that you guys have been doing this?
We're into our 4th year.
Yeah.
We celebrated our 3rd year anniversary back in January. Oddly enough, Rose Google had its last episode like either just before or just after we started. It was like a weird.
That's interesting.
They went on hiatus and just never came back. And sadly, because I still had them in my podcast app under my favorites, and I know it was probably a few months ago now, I went to I'll just throw on one of these old ones. And unfortunately, the links are all dead now. They're
too
just
bad.
gone.
Those were good.
Yeah, they're not being hosted anymore. So
I do remember now. I was listening to older episodes of that show. So, and I think it was right before the pandemic. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah, we started. Our first episode was January 9th of 2020.
Okay.
And then everything shut down, 3 months
That makes sense.
there.
Maybe it was episode 1. Maybe it was just fortuitous. I'm like,
yeah.
Well, looking for something when we're all going crazy, and that's probably how it happened.
Now, do you have a favorite episode or a favorite moment of Legends that stands out to you?
All of them.
All of them. Yeah.
I'm sorry about not giving you a specific answer, but I swear to you, that every single episode is always enjoyable. And I do want to recommend people to go back and listen to those earlier episodes with the wonky mic problems and stuff. It gives you
nobody should listen to that ever.
No, you should. It gives you, because it wasn't about quality. It was about right. I mean, it was about getting on and talking about this stuff that's important to us. And I got immediately, just so you know, when I started listening to you guys, I got that energy from you right from the get-go, that it didn't matter, that you just want to talk about this stuff, and that you're figuring it out, and you're getting better. Each episode got better, and and so every episode is good. When I hear a new episode from you guys, there's never a disappointing moment for me. I never disagree with you guys. That's another thing too. Maybe I'm just biased, right?
You should disagree with us. I'm wrong all the
time. We also just say this about me. I have a hard time. Not seeing different perspectives on the same level. So it's a gift, but also it makes, I have a hard time making decisions sometimes. So, but I always enjoy every episode. I've always enjoyed what you guys had to say. So my answer to that is don't stop, because my favorite episode is probably coming.
It's still coming. Here we go. Yeah, that was, and we said it. We spent months before that first episode messing with stuff, and then finally we did just say, we just need to get this out here. Yeah. We just need to go. Yeah. And, we can plan all we want, but we just gotta do it. And yeah, I've learned a lot about a lot of things.
Yeah.
On the technical side here.
Yeah.
Those episodes.
I mean, you go back, and you can do the same thing on my channel. You go back to my first video. Oh, yeah. It's I don't know how to talk like myself. I'm really self-conscious, and I'm not putting myself on the camera either, because I don't want to, I'm nervous about how that might be, and my editing chops have gotten substantially better, and so so despite quality and all that, still when I got to finally meet you, Matt, I felt like I'm meeting this group that I've been listening to, the last one in Anaheim, right?
Yeah.
And the last one that was solely Masters of the Universe.
We shut it down.
Yeah, we shut it down. I just felt like it was it was a special thing. You know, and you guys, you know, you carried me through the pandemic. I mean, that's awesome. Like, what else can a person ask for?
We were trying to carry each other through that. That was
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
good time.
all the love.
Yeah, we appreciate all of your support.
I try to listen to every episode, and I mostly listen on the podcast as opposed to watching the lives on YouTube. But I'm there every time one pops up.
Appreciate it. All right, Shawn, why don't we mix it up a little bit? You threw out a post earlier.
I did. There were two of them.
Oh,
I didn't even see the second one, so shows how I was paying attention.
The second, like I said, the second one did not work as well as I was hoping. So we'll start with the first one, and then we'll go to the second one because that's numerically how it works. So,
I like numerics.
Post on the Geekdom comments and questions post. The first one, Paul Herman, Comic Binge on YouTube.
Thank you, Paul.
How about an update on the MOTU film production, if there is one, and or what direction would you want them to go, considering the different interpretations, different universes?
Oh, that always comes up, right?
It always does, but
it's not
we have
happening.
to get, so it's
There's
different.
nothing coming. It's not going to happen. We'll see it maybe in 10 years.
IMDb is like Wikipedia in a way, and it can be updated by its users, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
Yes.
IMDb says right now it's in post-production.
Because it was supposed to have been. It was supposed to film between like April and July of this year.
And let me just throw this out there. I'm going to do another Mattel IP. So Barbie, right?
Yeah.
Barbie was filming, and I didn't see anything. Any photos? Like Greta Gerwig must have really fought to have a lot of this stuff not visible to the public. And I don't know if you've seen the trailer for Barbie, but it looks friggin' amazing. But the set design alone is spectacular. This is a huge thing. It looks amazing. I didn't see anything. Never any, like, I don't know about you guys, but I never saw any shots of people in costume, no location, sneaky shots, and not even a lot of people talking about it. Just seeing that it was on IMDb, and it's like, okay. And then suddenly we get all the promotional information for it. So part of me, being the eternal problematic optimist that I am, is thinking that these guys, the Knee brothers, are working, that perhaps this is something that they're just not sharing, that Mattel might have some sort of thing in place where they don't want to advertise what's going on behind the scenes, that they filmed it all on a soundstage somewhere and no one was allowed it to come in and
Skele, they don't even have a cast
that we've seen.
No. And again, I can't speak to Barbie too much, but even I knew the cast of Barbie.
Yeah, who was in it. Yeah, right. Me too. You're right. You're absolutely right on that.
Masters literally does not have a cast. They do not have a script. They do not have a script writer. They have two directors, and then what's his name? I can't think of his name now, but the Netflix star that was supposed to play He-Man, but then was fired from playing He-Man, but now he is playing He-Man, but maybe he's not playing He-Man. That's all they fucking got.
Yeah.
Like, there is nothing going. Now, maybe they're planning behind the scenes, but yeah, no, it is.
Well, I think
dead in the water, just like it was in 2003, just like it was in 2007, just like it was in 2009, just like it was in 2012, just like it was in 2016, just like it was in 2018, just like it was in 2020. So,
well, here's my response to that. As the eternal optimist, I hope it happens, and I hope the Barbie movie helps it happen.
That's probably the best bet.
The Barbie movie is going to be successful. I already have a feeling the people involved with making that movie. I'm a fan of Greta Gerwig's movies, and she's amazing. She's brilliant, and Noah Baumbach is great too. Hit and miss with him a little bit, but Greta Gerwig's like all of her movies are great. So it's going to be a great movie, and I'm hoping that it will that someone will get the idea that they can do something of quality for Masters. Just like, because Masters can't really be, and I don't think that Masters can really be made into a movie that's not conscious of itself, which is why I think Barbie is going to be successful. It knows what it's approaching Barbie as a concept, and knows what Barbie represents. I think that Masters has to know know its own thing, know the barbarism, know the filmation, know the 87 movie, know all of that in going into this, and not just try and make a Avengers movie or something.
And as I always tell Shawn, they have to embrace the campiness and they have to treat it seriously. And that sounds like it's an oxymoron, but it's not. You know, because if you just got to embrace the fact that we live in a world where there's a dude named Fisto, and you just treat it seriously. Because if you try and make it into a joke, everyone's just going to roll their eyes.
And you can't. You got it. The Spikor has to be a serious character, right?
The way the characters interact with each other, the way they talk to each other, they have to be in universe. They can't be turning and going, "What's up, Fisto? Wink, wink." You know, that's like, no. Then we're just in a mockery of it. So,
alternatively, I would absolutely love a Masters of the Universe movie where it's the toys. Like almost like
Small Soldiers?
No, not that bad.
That's a good movie.
Small Soldiers is fine. Toy Story, not like Small Soldiers, more like these are real things that are stuck in a situation. And
Lego movie.
Huh?
More like Lego movie, maybe.
Kind of like Lego movie, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I think that would really work, and it would make us happy. It would do all the things. It just wouldn't be like, it's either that to me. It's either like it has to be self-aware as a toy, as a property for toys for children of the 80s. It has to be self-aware, or like Lego movie, or it has to be like straight up deep, like Game of Thrones heaviness. Serious, like drama.
See,
never make fun. Like Fisto is Fisto, but it's like, these are very real characters.
See, I want just a little bit lighter than that for me. But yes, definitely going more down that road. But I don't need it going full Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones. Like that's too deep for what this is. You know what I mean? Like it's still got to be. I want that, but scaled back to like a PG, family-friendly action adventure. Something more in the Indiana Jones type. Let's have some fun with it. Let's have a fun adventure. Not everything has to be doom and gloom, end of the universe, end of everything, like they've been doing so much lately.
Yeah, that's what you're saying is kind of why I wish that they would make a more of a Lego movie version of, because Lego movie, like Sean threw Lego movie out there, and it's smart, it's good, and
I'd love them both, honestly. Like just to throw out all these different, throw out well, it'd be Mega Constructs because it's Mattel, but a Mega Constructs He-Man movie, and throw out an actual He-Man movie, and
I mean, wouldn't you want to see all of the different versions of He-Man show up together in a movie in toy form? I would absolutely love to see that.
Depends on who's writing it.
Well, it has to have.
If it's Tim Seeley, I don't know.
Oh,
I want multiverse with him writing it.
But I've heard Sean. I'm going to bring you in here because I've heard Sean say this before. I also really want to see like a Conan the Barbarian version of this story. I want to see the mini comics on the big screen. I want to see that too. So, to answer who was the person that asked the question?
Paul Herman. He runs the Comic Binge podcast.
Oh, Paul, I don't know if it's going to happen. Like there are too many good ideas, and none of them seem real, right? None of them seem like they could like who would go see that Lego movie that's Masters of the Universe, and who would go see that? Who would go see a campy or slightly campy Masters of the Universe movie?
Well, campiness is just a part of it. Like you can't have Masters without camp. I'm not talking like making Adam West style Masters of the Universe.
God no.
Like don't dial it up. You gotta accept that this universe has some camp in it. It's a part of it. Honestly, I know people are gonna throw stuff at me, but we just need a Transformers. I'm talking original Michael Bay Transformers. I know that's a lot of fans hate that, but look at everything it's done for the IP. Just look at how many animated series you got. You got the preschool series. You got all these toys. Freaking, you go down the aisles. There's like 5 different Transformers toy lines right now.
Yeah,
and that's all owed to that Michael Bay Transformers, which kind of the same thing. It didn't take itself too seriously. It just did the basics. And it just took you into this world, and it helped launch. You hit on it a little bit ago. You got to get butts in seats. That's the point of having a movie. Get people to buy tickets. And so those movies did so much for the franchise as a whole. Whether you like the movies or not, you can't deny that it launched Transformers back up into the stratosphere of toys and comics and everything else. Yeah. So that's, just make a decent Masters movie that looks fun, action, adventure to get butts in seats. And that way we can then go, well, that did really good. Let's do a sequel to that. Hey, let's do something for the kids. There's your Lego movie right there. Hey, for the longtime fans, let's throw out a comic series set in the first 5 mini comic world. That's where all that stuff comes from. If whatever they throw out first is successful. So that's why you can't go too far in any direction on the first one.
I think I don't know who the Nee brothers are. I haven't seen any of their movies, but in order for this to work, it's got to be like a James Gunn or a Guillermo del Toro. I don't see how. They've got to be serious about who they choose to write and direct this thing, and it's got to be someone that has experience in telling heroes' stories. And the Hellboys, the Hellboy 1 and Hellboy 2 that Guillermo del Toro made, could easily be a Masters of the Universe movie. Not the storyline, but the look of it, and I thought it was successful, even though it's Ron Perlman in a freaking costume, and Doug Jones in a, merman costume. It could work, if you get the right person behind it, and that would be it would have comedic elements, but it would also be serious, and it would do the things. Sean, how about you? What do you?
Real quick here, the Nee brothers, their famous films are The Last Romantic, Band of Robbers, and The Lost City. And Kyle Allen is who's supposedly maybe not playing He-Man. Sean, what do you want to see out of this movie?
Well, what do I want to see? That's a loaded question, because the first thing I always go to is more, I wouldn't mind it being like Lord of the Rings in that way, you know, like every time I think of the movie, I think that intro to the first Lord of the Rings movie is what I really would love to see, where here is the forging of the power sword. Yeah. And why was the power sword forged? And you get to have some background and history. You see King Grayskull wielding it against the Snake Man, or you see him wielding it against the Horde if they try to invade or whatever. And having that, like, I always pictured, you do that, you start the movie there, and you have the whole build up to, and then the sword was lost. And you know, and all this other stuff, like Grayskull fell in battle, and then the sword was lost, and then you'd have like the logo Masters of the Universe come up or whatever, and then the next thing you see is Duncan standing in this field teaching Adam and Teela about the history and the relevance of this field, because that's where Grayskull made his final stand, and Adam looking like, do I gotta learn all that? You know, it's that whole thing, the irresponsible teenager and all that. That's how I always pictured it. It would be along the lines of that, where it gives you the basics, have this kid who has no interest whatsoever in the history behind it, but then he has to wield it because he's going to protect his planet and save the people he loves and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like for me personally, I don't know. Like I'm almost at the point, like animation has now proven it is beyond viable to do and do it well. Spider-Verse is like such a perfect case in point of how a Masters movie could actually be done animation-wise and work effectively. Mm-hmm. Because that's one where I went into that movie and I had no interest in the first movie. I just, it's an animated Spider-Man. It's like, it's not Peter, it's Miles. Why are they even doing this? I didn't really grasp the concept. And then I sat down in the theater for that one, and I just sat there with my jaw on the floor through probably 95% of that movie once it started. So it's like Lord and Miller, who are producers on that, they have that fine line. There's a campy humor in there. I mean, Peter B. Parker is the one that brings a lot of that to the table, and so does Spider-Ham. So does Spider-Man Noir and all that. So in some ways, I feel that would probably be the most effective, because then you don't have to deal with, well, that guy doesn't look like He-Man, and that guy he's not working out enough to be He-Man and all. You know, like that's one of the worst parts about it being live action, is you have the initial people just having that knee jerk. Well, He-Man's supposed to be huge. Kyle Allen might be my size. I'm not the biggest guy. I'm only like, 5'9", and I'm a big guy because I eat too much. But still, it's that whole thing of like, we have these preconceptions of these characters over 40 years now, and to have people cast in these roles, some of them it's going to be really hard to find a person to fill a role that is your already existing idea of that character in some cases. So I am kind of going, well, if they could animate it and have the animation be stunning, and take the animation and base it on the iterations in the mini comics, maybe like those, the Alcala really influenced Alcala, and bring in the Rudy Obrero look of it, I probably would be sitting there going, I'm in love, because this is how I've always wanted to see Masters done, and we never got to see it that way as kids.
That's what I wanted in Revelation.
Yeah, and they went there a little bit. They gave you those hints, but then it's still more anime looking.
Yeah,
and that's their house style. I didn't mind that as much, but I feel like Spider-Verse and even the new Ninja Turtles movie, the way they're doing the animation makes me go, I could be hopeful they could actually do some Rudy Obrero animation and really have it looking like those paintings come to life and you're watching the paintings tell the story finally.
Oh, man.
That would be amazing if it would happen. The one thing I did look up though real quick, and this came out in the beginning of the month, July 3rd, and I don't like this website, but this website does at least have an update, and this is one of the very few updates that I've seen in months. The title of the article is
What is the website?
WeGotThisCovered.com.
Oh, yeah.
I am not a fan of them because they are knee-jerk reactionists usually, but they're referencing a New York, where was it? I think it's a New York Times article or a New Yorker article in it. I just saw this earlier this week. So the headline is, "It's as big as Marvel and DC. A reboot stuck in development hell since 2007 overestimates its importance." And so the whole point of the article is talking about how long this has been in production hell and the fact that the Mattel boss is still claiming that the live action reboot has the potential to rival both Marvel and DC, which I think DC might be an easy win until James Gunn gets it off the ground. No lie there. But the way they made it out, it's like, if you look at this character, that's a movie. If you look at this, that's a TV show. And it's like, well, you didn't get anything off the ground yet. Why are you looking to possibility of franchises for other things when you need to start somewhere? And I got to admit, I'm going to agree with the Dooch on this one. Like, Transformers did what it needed to do, and there's still moments in that movie that are ass awful. The whole, hearing Optimus Prime go, "Calm down, calm down." It's like, oh my god, or eBay and all that.
But it's Peter Cullen, like,
But the thing is, though, like, I will give it credit where credit's due. There's really cool moments in that movie, like Scorponok's in the desert hunting the military is actually a really cool and dramatic and tension-filled action piece. The battle at the end in the city, and then like I to this day I still love that, where like all the Autobots converge in there, and like you're looking at those cars, and as a kid, like when that was out, I was in my 20s, but the kid inside me was just like, those are Transformers. This is awesome. And then like when Prime transforms and it's like Megatron, I'm like, oh man, it's gonna happen, And like those were the moments where I'm just like, okay, this movie is stupid at points, but you're at least delivering these robots and you're making me care when these showdowns happen. And that's what it does need to be. I hope they don't go as stupid as that humor, because I don't need to see Man-at-Arms peeing on Orko, for instance, or something stupid like that.
Orko would pee on Man-at-Arms.
I mean, he gets mad at him, and all of a sudden,
Oh my god!
But it's like, I didn't need Bumblebee to be peeing on people either, but I got that in that movie for some god awful reason. But it is something where at least they managed to infuse the fun that I hope to see out of a live action movie. And I hope Mattel can do it, but we'll see.
There are currently 7 Transformers movies. Like, how many franchises get 7 movies? Like,
the Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are unique in that and I'm not an expert because I don't collect Transformers or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I've never seen a lull.
No, they don't go away.
They
fail, but they don't go away. They just do something else.
So that's where we want to be with Masters. We don't ever want to have another period of time where there's nothing. And in retrospect, it wasn't a long period of time that there was nothing. But right now is the perfect time to come out with. And I'm with you both on this, but I think Shawn should write it. I think it should be a film in the vein of Transformers, even though I don't like that movie, but it should have that kind of energy.
Yeah.
And
It's got to be accessible for everybody.
It's got to be accessible for everyone. And even though I don't like Michael Bay, he knows how to grab everybody's attention. So just please don't cast Megan Cox as Evil Lynn.
No, she had to be sorceress. Megan Fox is sorceress.
Megan Fox. Did I say Megan Fox?
That's a different movie.
Now we went NC-17. I love it. And it wasn't me that got us there.
Oh no.
No, just kidding.
But like Shawn, you got to write it because the way you wrote those first two scenes with the forging of the sword, while Matt got up for a second there, and Man at Arms talking to Adam and Tila on the hill in the opening shot, and talking about, you got to write that, because I don't think an Adam Nee or his brother is going to write this movie like a fan would, or like someone who's steeped in the education of it would. And then you get some heavy hitter like Guillermo del Toro or James Gunn's too busy, but someone who has that ability to tell a good story. Because honestly, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, those three movies are great.
Mm-hmm.
Because James Gunn knows what it's like to make crappy movies on a really small budget, and he also spends time with the lore and develops the characters, and that's what Masters needs.
Yeah.
So it's got to have a script written by Sean Scavarna, and it's got to be directed by Guillermo del Toro, and I won't settle for anything less.
There was a podcast recently where James Gunn was on, and part of the thing that appeals to him is the world building. Like, that's why when they let him do DC and they asked him if he wanted to be the guy fronting DC now in the movies, he's getting a kick out of the fact that Metropolis is not New York. Gotham is not anywhere you find on the map. So you can build these places up into things that feel as real on the screen as his Guardians movies. And when he said that, I'm like, you're selling me on this so much more than Christopher Nolan filming in Chicago. You know, that kind of stuff, and grounding it in real world. It's like, these characters don't need to be that. And I agree completely. Like, he would have been one of my absolute, like, if I did a top 2 of the directors, he would have been the first one, because he gets the zaniness on top of that. He gets that, so he can push both, but then you can also have these incredibly powerful emotional moments, like at the end of Guardians 2 and even the whole Guardians 3 and all that, you know. And
Guardians 3. Yeah, you're right. And I think that it just has to happen.
Yeah. All right. So, Paul, I hope you like that answer. So Jesse reached out, and I'll just say this real quick. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? And that was that.
On Eternia, Etheria, or Earth?
I knew he was going to do that. I knew he was going to do Eternia. And maybe Fisto's there in the woods with him, because he's like that woodsman. So he's the one that's able to check it.
There aren't woodchucks native to Eternia, so 0.
There you go. Okay. JP Casco, any new details on the Revolution series? And I personally have not heard much recently.
There was those. Check out Yuka's channel. He had a bunch of stuff. I mean, nothing groundbreaking, but just he had that interview with Ted Biaselli. A while back. Yeah, and it just kind of talking about, you know, the voice. They've recorded all the dialogue. It's animating now. You know, it's probably looking at a good 6 months to a year. Nothing groundbreaking story wise or anything. Go ahead, Shawn. You might be about to say what I
forgot what I'm saying. I did hear that Kevin Smith and Chris Wood, Melissa Benoist, and I think Mark Hamill, and they said a special guest or something. Well, whoever. I'm just saying they're going to have some of the cast for
I
the show
care.
at San Diego Comic
To
Con.
get the right information.
No, we don't. We don't.
Yes, we
can
do.
make this up as we go.
We're
fine.
not Toy Frenzy, damn it. Oh
well.
That's the wrong one.
That's right.
Anyway, I know it's going to be Kevin Smith, Chris Wood, and Melissa Benoist will be there. And then they said that there will be a special guest or a surprise guest as well. So people were.
Kevin Smith hosts a roundtable discussion about He-Man and Skeletor's most epic battle yet with the creators and cast of Revolution, featuring Chris Wood, Melissa Benoist, Griffin Newman, and Tiffany Smith.
Okay.
Come for the exclusive scenes. Stay for a Goliath appearance by a special cast member. So this is actually something that I wanted to throw out to you guys. I'm glad you reminded me of it because I'd forgotten. Who do we think the special cast member is going to be?
Dolph Lundgren.
That'd be cool.
I think that's the secret. We know Shatner's in it. I think
I was thinking it was going to be Shatner because we still don't know who Shatner's playing.
We don't.
I hope he's Zodak. I hope to God he's Zodak. Want to be?
Yeah. Shatner's not going to be Hordak, right? They said no to that. I think someone said. I think maybe
they have not said one way or another.
I think honestly, there's a surprise. We've got Meg Foster, we've got Shatner. We know they're going to be in it. I think it's going to be another announcement. In fact, they always do this. They're like, they do one announcement, Shatner. They do one other announcement, Foster. And it's like, I think this is going to be, and I was racking my brain. It's got to be Dolph, and he's got to be playing somebody,
my thing is, why'd they put the word Goliath there?
Yeah.
Like, that is a weird word to use there.
Exactly.
But I can't figure out.
Well,
so what I'm going to throw out there is Procrustes. Dolph Lundgren is going to play Procrustes.
I think that's a very good guess. I would be willing to bet $1 whole on that. I think it will. I think that's it, actually, Matt. I don't know.
That's the best I could come up with, and maybe Titus or Megator, but for some reason my mind went Procrustes.
I think and that's what I meant by it's got to be. If Dolph's going to be in it, he's got to be somebody who is important to Eternia in some spectacular way. And I don't think it. I think it'll probably be Shatner just because that's that's easier. But I have a feeling it's going to be a surprise person, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was Dolph Lundgren.
What do you think, Sean?
I mean, I feel like it's going to be a named actor because otherwise they wouldn't be pumping it up. But it would be a hell of a surprise for all of us if they said John Irwin was now part of it, since they did have Alan Oppenheimer being Moss last one. But I don't know who I'd want to see him be if they did that. Because
even if they got him, for him to show up in person to
Comic-Con, I get that.
That would be mind melting.
That's why I don't think it'll be him.
He wouldn't even show up PowerCon was after him for years, and he wouldn't even do a video or anything. Like, he is apparently a very private person.
Yeah.
But it'd be amazing. Like,
I mean, the only other, it could be Dolph. I could buy that. I mean, we already know Shatner's in it. The only other person I can think of would be if they got Frank Langella to show up and do something.
Oh, shoot. That makes, dang it. That might be it. And I don't know. Like, I still want Shatner to be Zodak because his voice for Zodak would make me laugh my ass off. I love it. I love it too much. So if they did have Langella, and I know he's gotten into some problems recently with the whole
he ended up getting canceled because of some behavior on a set recently. So I don't know if that's even a viable option.
Mm.
But if they did, his voice would be really cool for Hordak. If Chapman was playing him.
I didn't know about Langella getting canceled.
Neither did I. That's completely.
That sucks.
If I remember, he was doing they were doing an adaptation of The Fall of the House of Usher. And apparently he was telling jokes on the set that were very like, you shouldn't be saying those kind of jokes, and some of his behavior behind the scenes sorry, there was an intimacy coach thing.
Oh no.
Where he in the moment did more than the intimacy coach said to do, and the actress he was with was not feeling comfortable in the situation, and they had to let him go because it just wasn't working. So I don't know if that would be something where he could do a voice for this now.
Probably not.
Fortunately, that happened and all that stuff. But at the same time, his connection is, I mean, he is one of the best reasons to watch the 87 movie, whether or not whatever happened later on in his career. So,
you know, if they perfect world, if they did get John Irwin, all I need him to do is the opening narration. This is that Prince of Eternia. Like that's all. Like just they had the Man Arms voice actor do it for Revelation. Like if Revolution, but if Revolution started with John Irwin's voice, like this is Adam, Prince of Eternia, and the blah 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 blah. Like
Defender of the Secrets of Castle Grayskull.
That's all I need. I don't even need John to play anybody. Just have him do the opening narration, and I'd be good with that.
Yeah, me too. That would be awesome.
So, well, that's that
you,
update. J-Mac wrote in, wow, that will be one for the ages, having you guys combine your powers. Looking forward to it.
I hope
your
expectations.
Yeah.
And then Jacob Hicks, any thoughts on posting the theme song as its own video so I can add it to my YouTube playlist? That is to the Duke.
That's cool.
Yeah, I can actually do that really easily because it's there. It's just private. So yeah, I can flip a switch.
There we go.
Absolutely. I'm glad they're enjoying it. Is that all you got?
That's for that post, and then the second post, I'm ready with that if you want me to do it now.
What'd you do for a second post?
Second post was in honor of our guest tonight. Let's talk villains. Who are some of your favorite Masters villains, and why do you love them so much?
Okay.
And we had 45 people look at it, and one person respond. And the person that responded had to be Curtis.
Great.
All right. Well, thanks, Curtis. Thanks for chiming in. We appreciate it. All right. Moving on.
I knew he was going to do that.
So I think this is probably a good point to rip off Skele, right? Like, so we talked about it. We're going to do a special Legends of Grayskull weekly weirdo here. I probably should have grabbed mine. So Skele, why don't you start it off and I'll go grab mine.
What am I doing?
Who are I already know who two of them are, but like villains. your top favorites villain wise, since I know the villains are the ones that appeal to you more aesthetically and stuff, and why?
So well, do I do the usual, Sean? You've heard me say this like thousands of times at this stage. Beastman and Skeletor. 2.
If you want to do 2, you want to do 3, we can do top 3 even. Go for it. Just top 3.
Top 4.
All right. 4. And then we'll sit 5.
Top 4. So right off the bat, I got to say, I've always, especially in my adult years, thought that Evil Lynn was the most badass villain of all. She knows what's going on. She knows what's going on before Skeletor even knows what's going on. She's awesome. Rewatching the episodes, Filmation, rewatching Mike Young Productions, Revelation, all that stuff. Evil End's like spectacular. One of my favorites. But as far as action figures go, it's these four: Beastman, the colors, the sculpt of the face, Skeletor, the colors, the sculpt of the face, Stinkor, the patchouli smell and the color, and Merman, because he's just Merman. Merman's awesome. So I don't know if that answers the question.
No, that's fine. Perfect.
As a weekly weirdo, I would have to go into all, like my history with the characters, and that will take forever. But I wanted to start off with Evil Lynn because the action figures okay. The best action figure so far is probably the Sorceress Evil Lynn from Revelation. She's just like it like embraces her badassness. But and then the vintage one, obviously. But yeah, I guess that's 5, right?
That works.
All right. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Said he has problems making decisions.
Well, I love that he kept bringing it. He goes 3, and then the figure goes up, and then I'm like, well, just go 5. Why not?
I forgot Clawful and
Shawn, you got one?
So, all right, right off the cuff, and I know I did this question a while ago, but off the cuff for me, I personally, as much as I didn't care about him when I was a kid, Scareglow's definitely one of those figures that I like. The glow in the dark is essential to the character, which makes him really interesting, and visually, he is kind of like, Headless Horseman, kind of spooky in the Masters universe, especially in the classics version. I dig that a lot for some reason, and I mean the ability to tell stories with him, even from just that perspective, and using his power on characters is really cool to me. So, yeah, he'd be absolutely one of my top 3 in Masters right now.
Yeah, absolutely, it's a good one.
I wanted to throw this guy out. He obviously, like any of the OG villains, are definitely tops for me. But one that doesn't get a lot of love, and I've loved him since I saw his episode, Evil Seed, the Filmation version.
Yes.
He's such a simple design. The asparagus head, the robes, and then even with this figure,
I love it.
They made his feet into the vines, because originally in the episode there was supposed to be an end battle scene where he got rid of the robes and he was just like this mess of like vines and everything. And so they did that with his legs. If you look up there, it's a perfect representation of the character. And as a kid, welcome back, Shawn. As a kid, this episode really resonated, and like I was freaked out. Like, it starts all spooky with like the vines everywhere, and everyone's just disappearing, and He-Man, Skeletor. Like it's a iconic episode and an iconic figure for an iconic villain to go along with it.
All right, so when he takes off his hood, right?
Yeah,
and shows his dorky face. What was your feeling as a kid?
Oh, as a kid, I thought he was a badass. As a kid, like I was, oh shit, like that's
good. That's good.
I mean, I guess nowadays I can kind of see what people say with the goofiness, but as a kid, like he rips that back and you've got this like plant thing, like whoa. Yeah. No, my mind was terrified.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
He was. I mean, he's a formidable villain. He took down the evil warriors and the heroic. Like he had everybody up in his little tree there.
Yeah,
he's fantastic. Yeah, he was legit. All right, I guess we can hear what Curtis has to say.
Yeah. Oh, all right. We'll go with what Curtis said. Hang on one second. This is what I get for. Okay, here we go. So, MOTU wise, my favorite villains are all of Skeletor's main henchmen. The
Yep.
four you've shown here. So I had Trapjaw, Merman, Beastman, and Triclops. That were the first four that you saw in the post, and Evil Lyn. As a kid, I loved their bumbling nature. As an adult, things like MYP and Icons of Evil flesh them out to be better characters, in my opinion.
He finally said something intelligent.
Sorry, what was that, Matt?
I said Curtis finally said something intelligent.
Well, and what you're saying, Skele, it's like Trapjaw he'd have to make my top 5, if not top 3.
Yeah.
And then because Matt pulled the evil seed on me,
Yes.
I probably would throw Chakotay in there in the top 3.
Yeah.
Because that episode to this day, I love that one. Like that's one of the Filmation ones where it can do no wrong. I absolutely love that one because it feels like the mini comics. It doesn't feel Filmation. It really like going to that. They find that dark pyramid, and Stanley goes into it in the middle of the night, and he's actually taken into it, so he's kidnapped on top of that. And the fact that at that moment you're really seeing He-Man turn into like, I gotta get this kid back, and even as a kid I'm like, get him, He-Man, I'm like cheering for him, and then he has to fight the freaking living darkness at the end. I mean, Larry DeTillia should just write every episode of that series, and I would never say a bad thing about it because he wrote so many good ones that I have loved. That he hits the spot in every way, shape, or form. God bless his heart. So
yeah, absolutely.
Completely.
And it had 2 parts.
Exactly, and that's what really blew my mind. Like, you mean tomorrow we get to go back to this creepy stuff? So,
all right, let's dive into some news since we are all out of order today.
Oh yeah,
that's all right because Kelly's here.
What
am I looking for? That one. So Mondo, Sean's favorite toys, dropped this teaser image with the caption, "You thought we'd revealed all our SDCC exclusives? Ha ha ha. Tune in July 11th through 13th for the full breakdown and calendar of in-person and online releases." And very clearly here we've got a Mondo style Prince Adam. What do we think, boys?
Oh man, John.
I'll say they finally made a Mondo that I'm not worried about. This literally, like when I saw this, I go, my Klarna can finally take a rest because this one is not one I need on my shelf. Especially with that, like, I know that's the whole thing, but it's like I'm so not a fan of any time something has to reference the goddamn Four Non-Blondes video.
That just needs to die.
And this to me is like, I hope this is the death rattle of that because it is over, it's done, and it is funny to see it on a Mondo, but I want to see the whole thing just out of curiosity because I do like the details they've done on the vest at least. But I do not see myself worrying about this in any way, shape, or form.
It would have to have different, like a few different head sculpts that allowed for other Prince Adam characteristics.
Sure.
But no. I mean, there's so many other characters to make, and I understand why Prince Adam is important, and why this will probably be a spectacular figure for those who love Prince Adam. But I was just mentioning today in my weekly weirdo, Spike-Or, for example, would be a phenomenal Mondo figure. Evil Lyn, like, to me, I don't understand why this is happening before Evil Lyn.
But would you want Evil Lyn to be the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive?
That's the other thing. It makes sense. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it makes sense that this would be the con exclusive. Yeah.
Yeah.
It needs to happen. I mean, Mondo's making the figures. It needs to happen, but I'm siding with Shawn here because I don't have the urgency to start saving for this or try and get it in some way.
I completely agree with both of you guys. And I'm sure it'll come with a regular head and all that, but like at the end of the day, like Mondos are so expensive. I don't need a Prince Adam with my Mondos, and even then, I don't know. There's something like what I'm seeing there isn't hitting for me. There's a little bit too much going on his vest. Like, do you really need the collar and the trim and the shoulder pads and the clasps? Like, it's going. And I get that Mondo's thing is like we take these designs and we like amp them up a bit, but this is like, you went a little too far from the simplistic vest to like he's got every attachment possible on this vest. Like, well, what are we? To me, it's a little over designed. And again, we can only see a little snippet of it, but like, cut it back somewhere. And I'd also, as weird as it sounds, it looks like he actually has a white shirt on.
Yeah.
And that looks really weird to me.
Well, it makes sense.
It makes sense because it always has been a white shirt that he's wearing. But I guess you're just so used to seeing on the toy, like it painted on, that it looks weird to actually have that extra bit of fabric there. Like it looks odd as an Adam, not like, vacuum sealed to his chest, basically.
It's probably going to be an amazing figure, but just not for me. And the novelty of Prince Adam laughing in the cartoon and as a meme and all that stuff, like the novelty for me wore off right after Super 7 made the laughing Prince Adam.
You lasted longer than I did.
I mean, I got a kick out of it for a while there, and then I thought I almost wanted to get that Super 7 figure because it really looks like Adam from the cartoon. But I don't. I have to see the other head sculpts. And more information in order for me to say like confidently yay or nay. But I just I probably wouldn't pick it up if I was going.
Yeah, for me, like I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, what would appeal to me if it would make it? Like, could they do to make me want this figure? Because I don't. And the only thing that I can think of is, and this isn't going to happen. The only thing would be if they said you can also put on the blue tunic and make him look like the original Prince Adam from the comic books before Filmation started. But even in that vein, I don't see it working because you'd have to switch too many parts. He'd have to have unless they did it all fabric with the legs and all that, which I think that'd be insane. So you'd have to have skin toned legs, different color boots. And
we don't know what his legs look like right now.
I know, but I think
all you know, they are skin tone already.
I think they're gonna go Filmation, and that's it. And for me, like, I don't know, like the original vintage the original vintage Prince Adam was one of those weird figures that for some reason the fact he had soft goods on made him special to me as a kid. But when I look at this, it's just and again, Mondo, love your products, love your customer service, not complaining at all about what you do, but this is definitely one of those where I'm like, I would have went like if they put out Ninjor, I would have been like, Ninjor, like that's freaking cool. And it's like Prince Adam. I'm like, all right, Prince Adam. So I hope the people that want to have him can get him, and I'm not going to worry about that one. I'll see what comes up next. Hopefully Tila or, Beastman, since we saw that one.
They're
recently.
both right around the corner. Yep. We've seen the art for Tila, and we've seen the production sample of Beastman. So
yeah.
I think I know what would make this figure work for me.
What you got?
A tree and a cringer. So a tree that he could like lean back on and nap against, and on your shelf, and a cringer that could lay next to him sleeping. Like that would make this. I'd be like, that's rad. That's a scene that you can create now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they love including their little pals in there. You know, the She-Ra came with Cowl, that came with Imp.
Battle Cat is going to have the Cub Cringer.
Yeah, so maybe Adam comes with an actual Cringer.
Maybe Adam has a legit, maybe not quite like a 12-inch long version of Cringer that comes with him.
Smaller than Battle Cat,
with the ability to do this,
Yeah, or at least put his head on his paws in the front. Yeah,
I mean that would make this amazing, because then you could create the napping Prince Adam, which is like my favorite version of Prince Adam.
And he's gonna have a fishing rod, I bet.
Fishing rod and a tree trunk.
And he's gonna have like a fish that he caught. It'll be a little accessory. There's a fish. Here's the fishing rod. Here's Cringer, and yeah.
That would make it amazing, actually.
Now I'm selling them on.
Just wait.
Mondo, if you did that, that would make this like a con exclusive that would be hard to resist for fans.
There you go, Mondo. I know Mondo listens. They get Mattel and they listen
all the time.
Together.
All
they have team.
They're paying attention.
I love it. In other news, Dark Horse Comics has announced a new comic miniseries, Masters of the Universe, Forge of Destiny. This will release September of 2023, will be the first issue of a 4-issue miniseries. It is a prequel comic to the Masters of the Universe Revelation Netflix series. On the world of Eternia, a fragile balance exists between science and magic, a balance kept by the universe's mightiest hero, He-Man, man. On a peaceful mission to the island nation of Anwat Gar, the Royal Eternian caravan comes under attack by the minions of the evil Skeletor. And on the island itself, the nefarious Evil Lyn sets in motion a plan that could lead to all-out war. The 4-issue miniseries is written by Tim Seeley with art by Eddie Nunez and will arrive on September 6th, 2023.
Well, another prequel to Revelation.
Yes. And I believe it wasn't here, but somewhere else, someone associated with it described it as like a He-Man Year 1 type thing, which...
Yeah. I mean, that would be cool if that's what it is, but it almost doesn't sound like that from the description here.
No, I think they were just trying to say hey, this is well before everything that we've seen in this universe. Right. Which I know was one of Shawn and I's complaints. You never really get a good overall feel for the Revelation universe because it's not quite Filmation, it's not quite mini comics, it's not quite anything.
Right.
So maybe this will get us more of a story of setting the basis for this universe, which is what we were hoping to get in the original prequel series, and we never got it. I'm just going to call a spade and say I have no faith in Tim Seeley at this point to actually finish a series in a satisfying manner. And that's probably my biggest hang up right now. Artwork by Eddie Nunez, awesome. The covers all look excellent. I actually want to get probably all 3 of those. Skele, that last one actually reminds me of your Skele Vader custom character. I'm glad you're on for this episode because the minute I saw that 3rd cover there, I thought of you.
Yeah, it looks like Skele Vader. Chris Pelkey made this, folks. You can find him on Facebook. CP Creations. But yeah, that does look like a Skele Vader. That's interesting. All right, I'll buy that issue.
There you
go. I'm excited. I'm always excited to see what stories unfold in Masters of the Universe comic books, and I'll always explore it. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work out where I'm excited about finding out what happens or stuff like that, and I kind of lose interest. But and that's happened with a few of the series. But this one, I'll try the first issue and see how it goes. And the local comic book shop knows me as the guy that comes in asking about Masters of the Universe comics, and that's it, because I don't really collect any other comic books. So he'll probably have a copy of it there waiting for me. But I'm just, all I can say is I hope it's good, because the last one, the Masterverse one, wasn't that great. You guys said it quite well in your review of those Masterverse comics, which is that sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Yeah. I'd rather see a whole series based on this one short storyline as opposed to having these other ones that aren't so successful. It's almost like, here's a bunch of drafts, folks, and good luck. Let me know which ones you like, but they're not asking us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see.
Shawn?
Eddie Nunez on art really is killing me. I mean, that's the thing that I want more than anything, because I loved what he did. He worked on Revelation. I think he's probably working on Revolution, or he's a part of that.
I'm sure.
And he did the bookends on the Masterverse title that just came out. I love his take on this stuff. He's probably one of my favorite when it comes to the style he brings to it. That works for me as Masters right now. Tim Seeley again is just making me go like, who's he blackmailing that he's the only guy that can get to do this? Because he's done a few where I'm like, okay, that wasn't bad, but I've never read anything where I'm like, wow, that was a great Master story. And the other problem I have with this is I thought this was a prequel for Revolution before we started recording. And then when now we're talking, it's like He-Man Year One. It's even to Revelation prequel. That makes me just go like, so basically what we talked about on this show is true, that they really needed to establish what this world was, and now they're going back and trying to do it. And that just makes me go like, well, then you shouldn't have told the story that you told the first time. You should have established the universe within that story first, without having to do this kind of stuff, because prequels to things I've already just seen, I'm already like, well, then I know how it worked out because I just watched that series. So whatever happens here is pretty much a given. It works out. I would like the Forge of Destiny. Well, I'm getting kind of like, my guess is Adam gets the sword. I mean,
No,
I'm not trying to be like sarcastic and snarky, but it's hard for me not to when this feels just like they're doing something because Revolution is going to hit, and they don't want to do a prequel for that, but now they're doing a prequel for something we already saw, and that prequel probably won't matter, just like the other prequel didn't matter. I mean, it's like, you're killing me here, guys. Like, I've given money to all of these because I'm on a podcast that we want to talk about it. And then when I'm on the podcast talking about it, you can just see the joy draining from my face as we get further into it. I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this, except we have to do a new episode. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's the prequel problem.
Yep.
Yeah.
Prequels does it take to screw in a light bulb? Honestly, like it's a real problem. It's almost like we've learned now to use this as a way to fix issues that we identified after making a movie or after making a show or whatever. But I would be more excited about this if it was what Shawn said, which is a prequel to Revolution. Like what happened between Revelation and Revolution. Makes more sense to me, and that's more interesting to me than explaining, how He-Man got his sword again, if that's what this is really about. I mean, I like that cover with the Skele on there, I'm with you, Shawn, and actually on Offworld last night. Was that last night? It feels like it was ages ago.
Oh, on Friday.
2 nights ago. Yeah.
Friday night, you were saying some insightful things about the problem with Star Wars, and when you see those problems occurring in another IP that you're attached to, that I'm attached to, I'm seeing that here. If you're going to give us something of substance. And George Lucas tried to do that with the prequels, but had a lot of problems with. I feel like there were a lot of problems with those. We've already talked about it, but I don't think that leaning on another prequel is going to fix Revelation. What's going to fix Revelation is Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're all hedging our bets on. That Revolution will fix it, not necessarily a story that may be flaccid at of how He-Man got his sword. That was not a double entendre.
I like you went there. The thing too, like just real quick, the other thing about like Revolution, for instance, that's 5 episodes and that's it. And it's like, well, that's what it's been advertised as. I don't know if there's maybe something else going on or not. And that's the most I know. But the fact that we just came out of, 10 episodes for Revelation, and then to have Revolution be 5 for right now, whatever happens afterwards happens, you'd almost think that they'd want to maybe have 4 issues of something leading into that. So maybe if they can't tell all that story there's a little something left for the fans who want to read a book and get a little bit more deeper into what that story was about. Because I doubt those episodes are going to be an hour, like that. So it's like, how much stuff are you going to cram into 5, maybe 30 to 40-minute episodes? That's not a lot of time, depending what the story scope is that you want to tell.
I just think they just need to stop these miniseries and either do an ongoing series that's just not necessarily tied to anything, or just forget about it. Like the prequels, that's, you're just writing yourself into corners. We saw they couldn't even, like you've all said, we said in the reviews, they couldn't get the last prequel series to even line up with what they animated and put out for the tune, that there's plot holes galore, and now you're going to do another prequel. Like, just stop it. Just, you've tested the waters. Obviously Masters Comics sells because you keep doing these miniseries. Just do an ongoing, do its own thing. He-Man versus Skeletor, some great adventures, and just do it. Like,
well, that's how you sell comic books. You have issue 1, it leads into issue 2, it leads into issue 3, and we want to get to issue 47 and 225.
That's what I want. They don't want it anymore. They want to go 1 through 4, 1 through 4, 1 through 4, 1 through 4. Like,
it cheapens the brand. It really cheapens the brand, in my opinion. If you don't have the faith in doing something long term, even if you can only do 24 issues, that's still 2 years worth of a comic that we don't have, instead of doing 4 issues a year that are like stunts at this point. They literally are like I said it before. It's like the He-Man Thundercats was an island. Then you have Super He-Man and Injustice. So you jump to the next island. Then you jump to the Revelation Island, and it's like all of these things are not interconnecting in a way. And on top of that, the other thing for me is they're leaning so hard on the Revelation universe. What if that's not my preferred version? What if I'd rather see a traditional version of these characters? I'm not getting that. I haven't had the mini comic version in 40 years, except for the 1 issue in the multiverse book. But like, it's like, for somebody like me, I'm like, you could go to the land that I like and I'd buy that, and I'll buy 2 of them. Just to show you I love it that much, but doing this kind of stuff, that's another thing that's just driving me up the wall. It's like you're putting your bets on the thing that I still don't really have the owning to, And yeah, it's the new thing, but it doesn't mean that's what I want to see either when you work with this brand.
It's non-committal, and it's problematic because we have a fear of commitment in our relationship to Masters of the Universe.
That's a perfect way of describing it.
We're always scared that it's going to go away, and these mini series are just proof of that. Like they just start with issue 1, give us a new story that continues on. He-Man versus Skeletor. We've seen it before. It works. It worked in Filmation. How many episodes are in season or in He-Man and the Masters of the Universe? And it's like
130.
130.
Actually asking her that, but 130.
An incredible number. I mean, why wouldn't an ongoing comic book series work? And don't make it Filmation. Don't make it multiverse. Don't make it Revolution or Revelation. Make the characters we know, and give us some interesting stories.
Absolutely.
They can be simple stories. They don't have to be complicated and rely on these tropes that we're so reliant on now in storytelling. It's one of the biggest problems with movies these days is that nobody's telling a simple story.
Somebody had been listening to his Legends of Grayskull podcast.
But it's probably because you're like speaking through my brain sometimes. But yeah, it's an opportunity. Why would they pass up Why would they pass up on a great opportunity? Just like the movie, for instance, not to go back to that, but why would they pass up on that opportunity to make something good and take it back to simple storytelling?
So one of the things that I discovered this week, and I was really happy to discover it, is for some, I'll admit, I am one of those fans where it would be cool to see, here's the beginning of this story. So here's the moment when Adam gets the sword, for instance. And I know Matt's probably going like, oh, for the love of God. But I'm just saying. I'm listening. There is that part of me, because 2000X did it and they made it their own in that way, that it makes me go, well, I wouldn't mind having something along those lines of that if they did a new series somehow, if they did a comic series, for instance. And I realized this week there's a show I've been binging the hell out of, Superman and Lois. On it's on the Max app, CW. Brilliant show, love it. It's like one of my favorite takes on Superman in ages. And there is an episode, the first episode gives you like the hints of the origin, the stuff you already know. They gloss over it enough to go, hey, I'm from here, and and this, and literally like a minute later you're in the episode, and you're off and running, right? And I was thinking about it just now, and I'm like, if they did a comic series where it was like Matt's talking about, just started off with an adventure, but then during the adventure, something happens to He-Man where all of a sudden he's having to remember those key moments of his life in order to save his life in that moment or whatever. And it's maybe he's having one of those moments where he's weakened, or it's too much. Like even the most powerful man in the universe can break at some point, kind of a thing. And you just see those critical moments of what led to him into that moment. And you see Adam, by being who he is, gets the sword because she sees he's got the inner strength. He's got the ability to care for others. And it's like all this stuff feeding him into it again. Reigniting the power of Grayskull that is within. And I'm like, even if I did that would be enough for me to go, you sold me. Because I get to see this version's origin, but I didn't have to go through it in the beginning like all the other stuff does. We can have that adventure story, but we get those little snippets to go, oh, that's so cool. I'm getting to see that for the for the first time. And all
that could be like issue number 4 or 5.
Absolutely.
It's like
issue 12.
It could be,
like
I could see that happening in a Prince Adam No More type of scenario.
Absolutely.
And then you get the flashback and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean that's just, I mean, I'm not downplaying what you just said by saying this. I'm complimenting you. That's basic storytelling.
Yeah.
That's a tool that people use in order to keep you involved and make you interested and make the next scene something you're anticipating. Surprising you with a flashback moment. When it's unexpected, you thought, oh, I'm never going to get an origin story. Oh, it's happening right now. I wasn't ready for this, but this is great. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
And you can do that with all the characters, especially if you have an ongoing comic book series.
Well, the episode in Superman and Lois that did it was episode 10 of the first season. And I was watching this episode the other day, grinning from ear to ear, going, they didn't give this to me in the beginning, but they're still doing it. That just, I loved it. And I would still be happy if they did that in Masters. It doesn't have to start right there at the sword. It could go in a whole different direction, but still reference it later. That'd be great.
Masters wouldn't really work. I was just thinking, would Masters work as a show? And not really, because it would have to have an extraordinary budget, an ongoing extraordinary budget.
Yeah.
Unless you kept it simple and just character driven, like Mandalorian or something, and it could work. I could see that working too. But first, the Mattel needs to prove it to themselves that they have that the storytelling will carry this IP as opposed to toy selling, and that's the problem. Everything is temporary because I think they're too dependent on the toy, the way toys are sold for this. And we're adults now, Mattel. We can handle an ongoing story. Trust me, we're ready for it. That brings up a whole other thing. Like, why hasn't that? I'm not a video game fan, but why hasn't there been you guys have talked about this. It's like, why isn't there a video game? But it's the same question as why isn't there an ongoing comic book series?
That's just the things you need nowadays. Keep it simple. Get a video game out there. Get a movie. You've got to have all this stuff.
Yeah.
And they, like you said, they're too old fashioned. Think if they don't sell out of every figure immediately, that it's dead in the water. So, which they do seem to be getting better. Hopefully, we'll see. We'll see what happens with the movie. I mean, that's what it all hinges on. You need that going back. You need that to push it to the masses. You need it to push it to the next generation. You need that exposure.
Yeah.
So to wrap up this epic episode, speaking of movies, speaking of keeping it simple, I threw a challenge out to Shawn and Skele earlier. Hopefully they thought about it a little bit. So, we've had a lot of movies starring our favorite characters, the Muppets. Muppet Treasure Island, Muppet Christmas Carol. I mean, it goes on and on. Some of my favorite renditions of stories are with the Muppets playing the characters. So I threw out the knowing both Shawn and Skele are big Muppet fans. How do you cast your Masters of the Universe movie starring the Muppets? Muppets of the Universe.
It's such an obvious thing. It works so well. Muppets of the Universe. I mean, I'm surprised they haven't done it.
It would be amazing.
It would be phenomenal.
So let's start with the base. I mean, we got to start with the heavy hitters. He-Man, Skeletor. Who out of the Muppets are your He-Man and your Skeletor?
Skele.
Well, Kermit has to be He-Man.
I think that's pretty much just.
And I know that the Henson Company, they have whenever they're on, the humor is great. So Kermit as a muscled out He-Man is going to be friggin' hilarious. And I know that they would get on board with creating something that funny. So He-Man has to be Kermit. Doesn't have to be. I mean, it could be fun.
I think so. Shawn might disagree. Shawn looks like he might disagree.
Oh, all right. Let's hear it.
So, Shawn, who's your He-Man?
I want him to be the head pig from Pigs in Space.
Oh, Link Heartthrob.
Link Kirk, yeah, because he's got he's got the chin, he's got that machismo thing going on, and if this is going to be Masters of the Universe, but with the Muppets, they're going to make that into, he'll be more like a himbo when he's He-Man.
Yes.
And Kermit, like, I actually like the idea. Here's a crazy idea. I like the idea that Kermit is Prince Adam, but then when he lifts the power sword, he becomes the pig, and that makes Tila Miss Piggy. Now we're the same species and all that,
Oh, so that's hilarious.
But deep down, just like in Masters and just like Captain America, I almost like the idea that you could hear Kermit's voice, He-Man, but you have the pig guy being the outer version of He-Man.
Okay. That's hilarious. That's great.
Because that would make me laugh my butt off if I saw that for the first time.
I can see the transformation being really funny.
Yeah.
And he's like, what happened to you? And then she's like, Kirby! She like tackles him.
Yeah.
It's, oh my God, I get to see hilarity ensuing every time he has to turn into He-Man for that one.
That's fantastic.
That's out of left field, and I love it.
Yeah.
Now he did throw out there Miss Piggy as Tila. Are we on board with that?
Yeah, I think we're all on that. Yeah.
She's got the karate, man. She can definitely beat Tila. Yeah.
She would be a good Evil Lynn too.
True, but Evil Lynn.
What do you keep doing?
I don't do anything. It just keeps doing it on me apparently. If I had to go Evil Lynn, I'd actually pick Janice just because, put her into a main role. She doesn't get that as often as others.
She's from the band, right?
Yeah, she's from the Electric Man.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, I can get behind that.
Sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
No, go ahead.
I thought that Gonzo would be great as Skeletor.
That's where my mind went to was Gonzo
because of the colors. And I never got it, but several years ago, the family and I went to Disneyland, and they had Gonzo as Darth Vader action figures, and I'm so pissed that I never got one. But that just goes to show that Gonzo just fits for some reason as a villain. But then I also had a hilarious thought in thinking about that, which means that if Evil Lynn and Skeletor are actually in a relationship together, off and on relationship, then that would mean that Evil Lynn would have to be the chicken
Camilla.
Camilla that Gonzo was in love with, which I think is a really, really funny image.
I think I like that better. I think I like the chicken better.
And she doesn't really, she keeps doing her bar. So it's like you don't know what she's doing, but then all of a sudden there's a spell that happens and you're like, holy crap, this chicken's on fire.
Exactly. Hilarious.
Oh, I love that. That's perfect.
I think my casting's gonna be a little odd because like Man at Arms, I know Fozzie would be the go-to, but I'd actually want to do either Sam the Eagle, because he's got that, I could see Sam the Eagle because he's got that like stature about him. It's the Eternian way and all that stuff.
Well, that'd be your King Randor, right? Sam the Eagle. I guess
it could be King Randor. I mean, it makes sense because even they have the falcon or the eagle crest on the armor, so why not just go there? The other option for Man at Arms, in my opinion, though, could be Bunsen, because Bunsen is an inventor. He's always creating all that crazy stuff, and then that makes Beaker possibly Orko.
Yes, that's brilliant.
The other person I thought of as Orko, visually that I like, and this one I need to do a sketch of this sometime because it will amuse the hell out of me, is Zoot. Because he's already got the hat.
Yes.
It looks like Orko's hat, kind of, and it's like I'm just picturing him with a scarf on, and his nose is sticking out, and he's got his sunglasses on. I could just buy that; it just works for me. But if I do the Bunsen is Man at Arms, then Beaker would be Orko.
100%. That's much better than my choices for that.
Yeah, no, I was thinking Fozzie just because, like, you know.
I was.
But yeah, I think you're right. Bunsen and Beaker.
That's a much better plan, and I was struggling with Orko, so I attached Robin to Orko, like the little But in thinking about it now, if we're talking about Muppets in general, then
Mhm.
Elmo would be a great Orko. So if we can incorporate Sesame Street Muppets, then that changes a lot.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Elmo.
Orko's here to see the game. Tickle me, Orko.
Oh, no.
That's a lawsuit and a half waiting to happen.
Oh. All right, so we need some villains here. So what? We need Beastman.
Animal.
And, yeah, Animal
Okay.
or Sweetums.
I chose Sweetums for Grizzlor.
Yeah, if you're gonna go
I can
horde
dig that.
eventually, yeah, it's save Sweetums. Yep.
Because the other, I was actually, if you didn't go Animal for Beastman, Fozzie would be my other option because I'm throwing my stuff all over the place. In
Oh
this.
yeah, that's cool.
I can see that. Or
because he's
maybe
a
even
Muppet.
Rolf, like, you know.
Rolf's too laid back. I like the idea that Fozzie Beastman would probably be like very kind and be like, "So do you want to help me out?" And then all the animals run away from, "Hey, you guys," you know, or whatever. You just have that kind of a moment when he's like, if Skeletor wants him to attack Grayskull, he's trying to get the Shadow Beast, and they just go and they walk away, and he's like, "Come on!"
I love the idea of the Shadow Beast being like the background big monster characters from that always hanging out with Sweetums.
The blue one.
The blue one.
Well, I never can remember his name.
I can't either. It's
But
something like
he's the blue one with like the big like platypus nose that comes out. So I can almost see him as like all of it. You keep cloning him, and he's all the Shadow Beasts.
yes,
or
that was so cool.
All right, I can dig it. I can dig it.
And then
What about Trapjaw?
Trapjaw. Jeebus.
That's tough. That's a tough one.
So, damn it. I can't think of who Trapjaw should be. Like, he's a hard one to cast. But I just thought of one thing that throws everything out the window again. Gonzo should be Ram Man because he always shoots himself out of cannons.
I pictured Rolf as Ram Man because he's so laid back.
That makes sense. All right,
Yeah.
we'll stick with that because otherwise the whole thing falls apart. So let's just keep that. That's good.
I like that.
Yeah, I think Ralph was Ram Man. Yeah.
I'm trying to
You
think.
want me to break something? All right.
Rather than being stuck on Trapjaw, because I'm really stumped on Trapjaw.
You're good. What you got?
I've got instead of Sam the Eagle as Randor, I was thinking about the Swedish Chef. Because
Oh my god.
I am stumped.
Ooh. Statler and Waldorf is too bad.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Originally, it was between them and Bunsen and Beaker, but then you took Bunsen and Beaker for Man Arms and Orko, so that definitely, Statler and
But
Waldorf.
freaking Swedish Chef as Randor is breaking my mind. I love it, and and then the two of them is too bad. Just like, oh my god, that would be amazing.
Sean, I wouldn't ever do this, but I'm giving you an assignment.
Oh.
You have to draw
Statler
and Waldorf as Too Bad. You have to. You're the only one I know that can do it. So could you please?
The best part about it will be I would want to do it where they have some of the Too Bad armor, but then they also have like the suspender socks instead of like for masters, and they're like their shoes, their wingtip shoes or whatever.
I pictured the Too Bad armor, the suits like stuffed into the Too Bad armor.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So there's two that are really challenging: Merman and Trapjaw.
Yeah.
I originally said Rizzo the Rat as Merman just because I was struggling with trying to figure out who that could be.
I almost wonder if you just go like a Scooter, just because like he was like the backstage guy and like the tech
Scooter would be
guy,
good.
like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for Trapjaw.
Well, if we did, because you were saying Elmo for Orko at one point.
Yes.
Honestly, if we could grab a couple Sesame Street guys, Grover is too bad. Or Trapjaw, sorry.
Grover is Trapjaw.
Grover is
Absolutely.
Trapjaw.
Okay.
Super Grover is Trapjaw.
Super Grover is Trapjaw, but the other way around. Trapjaw Grover?
Okay. Digging it.
Well, then Cookie Monster could be Merman. That's crazy.
And then Battle Cat would be Snuffleupagus.
Oh, totally.
Oh yes.
Oh no.
Although we are mixed.
So is Big Bird the sorceress?
Big
Bird's the source.
Sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Complete set.
Also, I want to change Merman to Oscar the Grouch.
Yeah.
It works better. But yes, Big Bird is the sorceress for sure.
Oh my god.
I love it. Tell, where are you? We got this for you.
This is awesome, Matt. This is so much fun. Thanks for coming up with this.
Now, is there because you know a lot of the Muppet movies though they'll have like one or two human characters in there. So is there anybody we wanna hold in? Like if you had to throw a human in there, who do you make the human?
I would bring back the kids from the '87 movie and make them relive that hell through the Muppets. It's like Courtney Cox and what's it, Duncan, whatever, I can't remember his whole name. But when just bring them in, they use the cosmic key, they get back to Eternia, but everybody's Muppets now, and they're like, "What the hell happened here?"
Yeah.
Oh my god! If that's the other thing too, and I don't need it personally, but now I'm like, okay, if we had to do the '87 movie, Lubbock was still there, so you can either have Lubbock still there,
Lubbock is still played by James Tolkien.
You could still do that, or if you had to recast him as a Muppet, I'm trying to think, but I can't find anybody.
There's your human right there, Lubbock.
Everybody else is a Muppet. Everybody on the
Lubbock is still Tolkien. Yeah.
What the hell is that?
Also, if time isn't an issue, then young Steve Martin as Crackers.
I will tell you, he just has to get that in there. It's Crackers.
Would it be Steve Martin though, or would it be Chevy Chase?
No, it would be Steve Martin.
Chevy Chase has kind of the scumball reputation.
He's
got a little bit of the sleaze that Crackers needs.
So what I'm thinking of is the sarcastic waiter that Steve Martin played in the Muppet movie. And the sarcastic, snarky, hates his job waiter. And I just picture that as Crackers, but Chevy Chase would be too.
Yeah, Chevy Chase is somebody. I mean, I can appreciate his earlier stuff, but I think he'd be an easier target for people who hate that character already to go, "Oh, it's Chevy Chase."
I guess that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he's a tough one. I love a lot of his work, but apparently as a person, he is just awful.
Oh, here's another one.
Here we go.
Bill Murray as Granomir.
Ooh.
Okay.
Just really chill, like Bill Murray.
Hey guys.
Often. Okay. You need me to do a spell? All right. Whatever.
All right. I guess. Can you bring me a tree? No.
That's the bedroom. Right. Nothing ever happened in there. What a crap.
That'd be good.
No, I really just the idea of Kermit as Prince Adamant. By the power of Grayskull, and all of a sudden there he is talking like that out of the pig. It just kills me.
So great.
No,
that is so great.
That's a movie right there, guys. Muppets of the Universe.
Muppets
right up there with Muppet Treasure Island, Muppet Christmas Carol.
Muppets of the Universe.
And the last scene, emerging from the shadows, Uncle Deadly as Hordak.
Sure. And if you want to go with the new Muppets movie that came out like 10 years ago now with Jason Segel and all that, have him show up at the very end. He's like, wait till they get a load of me. Maniacal laugh. Maniacal laugh. Like they did in that movie.
Perfect.
I love it.
Perfect.
I
That's a
love
good
it.
one. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you guys. You guys, I could not have pulled a lot of those deep Muppet cuts out like you guys did. So I really appreciate it. It was a good time.
All right, Shawn, you know what you got to do. You got to draw that. You got to draw that style and all that.
I'm not gonna lie. I actually want to draw a Skeletor Gonzo too.
Yeah. A Link Heartthrob.
Link Heartthrob.
I think you just in like the 87 movie poster style, like, you know, Kermit and then Gonzo and like, you know,
oh, that would be so good.
like Miss Piggy and Camilla and like that, like the
and
minor
then do the
characters
cast
at the
list at the
bottom.
very end. Bill Murray is Granamir. It's like, just let that go and see how many people lose their minds.
That's amazing. Oh, please.
I love it.
I need to see that.
Hey, stay tuned. Maybe we'll have some merch to offer up here.
That's right. There you go.
That could
There
be
you go.
fun. All right, guys. I think that's an episode and more. Skele, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Well, I'm on YouTube as Skele Vader, and you can find me there. And then I'm also on Instagram and under Skele Vader, Skele_Vader on Instagram. And you can also listen to me and my friend Mark talk about our obsessions as children and as adults on the Cambridge and with Shawn podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Very, very good podcast. I enjoy listening to it.
Thank you, Shawn. Yeah, Shawn wrote a really nice review. And let's see. Oh, you know what's interesting? We were talking about this. I was talking about this with Mark, and you're proof, Shawn. We were a little worried that it was too Central California located, but it works for you, right? You feel like you can get on, you can understand where we're coming from as opposed to just being Central Valley centric.
The thing about the podcast is I love that it feels like I'm sitting there talking to you guys in like a coffee shop, and a lot of your experiences and the things that you guys love are things I love. So there's that bonding there. And then hearing about the locations adds color to the story, but it never makes me feel excluded because I have my own stories. It's like, oh, that's like my place back home that I did this or whatever. And the really cool part is, even though I'm a part of podcasts, it is one of those things where you're telling these stories, and these stories are things that matter because they shaped who you are. And one day those things aren't even going to be there. So you're getting to chronicle these things that make you who you are. And that's like, there's this primal thing about your show that I love for that reason. And every time it pops up in my podcast feed, I'm like, yep, got to listen to that one first. No way around it. So
cool. Well, that's good to hear. Thank you. And I didn't turn into a commercial for Cambridge and with Shawn, but and then we also on Thursday nights on the Skele Vader channel, Shawn is often a guest co-host on that show, Toy Frenzy, on the Skele Vader channel. So yeah, that's the stuff.
I love it. Shawn, say your goodbyes.
goodbye.
Bye.
Thank everybody for tuning in. If you could do us a favor, just click all those buttons down there below, like, share, subscribe. If you're on an audio platform, leave us a review, stars, horseshoes, clovers, blue moons, whatever they got down there. Click them, please. We appreciate it. Still on YouTube. We're like 20 dudes away from 1,000 subscribers. Like, help us out. Help a brother out.
Yes.
So thank you all for joining us. And until next time, bug Shawn to make that movie poster.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Ah, rock. Oh, man. Oh.